Alright, what's up guys? This is Orion, and I'm going to be going over the Fire Emblem Path of Radiance maps and rating them in order of difficulty. So if you've ever wondered which map is the most difficult in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, specifically Maniac mode, this is the video for you. So yeah, we're going to be going over each map in order, talking about what makes it difficult. We're going to have two different sorts of ratings. We're going to have a BS rating. So BS rating will be how difficult the map is in terms of the BS that's just thrown at you. So it's not necessarily complexity, which is the other one, the other rating scale. It's more of like, we have all these things to deal with. It's not difficult to deal with in terms of the strategy, but it's difficult to deal with in terms of brute force, right? So we're gonna have a BS scale and then a complexity scale. So how difficult it is in terms of how you have to strategize, your tactics you have to utilize, so on and so forth. So, and on top of that, I think it'll be good to sort of, this is going to be a long video, and I'm going to be kind of just talking really in depth about these maps. So you can think of it kind of as a Maniac mode Path of Radiance guide in terms of the maps. So yeah, and I should also mention, this is tailored for Maniac mode, not really hard mode, definitely not normal mode in English, and easy mode. So Japanese Maniac mode. This makes a difference because certain maps, the BS makes a huge difference. For example, Clash, Chapter 26, on medium, easy, because the BS isn't that high and the complexity is very low, these maps aren't nearly as difficult as it is in Maniac mode, where even though the complexity might be low, the BS is so insanely high that it ends up being, well, spoiler alert, probably one of the hardest maps in the game. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So, first we're starting with the Prologue. So, Chapter 1, no, Prologue is not Chapter 1, the training map. So, training map in Path of Radiance is, in Maniac mode, is easy in terms of complexity. So, we can give it like a 3 out of 10 complexity, but BS is going to be a little higher. So let me talk about the map a little bit. So, in this map, you fight Boyd first, and then you fight Greel, and on most difficulties, I think even on hard difficulty, this is going to be in a similar tier. It's very easy. However, if you mess up, I've seen people die in game over here pretty easily, because if you straight up attack Boyd turn 1, you can die. You attack Boyd, you get hit, he attacks you back, you attack again, you don't realize that Greel attacks you and is basically an ambush spawn. So because of that, the BS is definitely at least 5 to me. Like, I'll say it's a 5, because again, there's only one little thing that happens. It can lead to a game over, and especially because this tier list is going to be somewhat tailored towards an Iron Man flavor, because that's kind of all I've been playing recently. Yeah, I'd say it gets a 5, because if you do like a blind Maniac mode Iron Man on Prologue, you could definitely just end the run right there. Luckily, it's Prologue, so you can restart, but again, that is kind of annoying. So complexity is going to be as low as possible. So I guess we're not going to do 0. We'll just have it a 1 out of 10 and BS 5 out of 10. Now, does this put an F tier, D tier, C tier? I would say it's probably still D tier. Because the fact that you can game over here, realistically, even more likely than other maps, it cannot be F tier. Now, again, if this is a non-Iron Man run, like, sure, it can go F tier, I guess, because you don't care about BS too much, or this kind of BS too much, if it's a non-Iron Man. But, again, this is more for Maniac mode Iron Mans, so for that, I'd put this in a D tier. Okay. So, Chapter 1. So, Chapter 1's a very good map. I'll also talk about how I enjoy these maps a little bit. So, Prologue, I don't really enjoy the Prologue too much. I don't think it's that if I could skip it, I would. So by that rule of thumb, I don't think I enjoy it too much. I'd rate like a 4 out of 10 Prologue. You know, how good can Prologues be, or training maps be? But I prefer like Sacred Stones Prologue, for example. So I put like a 4 out of 10. So yeah, don't enjoy it too much. It is kind of BS, but it's not that difficult. Chapter 1. So Chapter 1 is a step up in complexity for sure. There is a little bit of BS. So when it comes to these early chapters, the really annoying thing is that your units are so weak that it can be hard to deal with all the enemies, and you kind of have to be very careful and specific about where you place your units. So on this map, For example, you need to use Titania turn 1 to get the Seraph Robe in the top left house. So in the northwest. And if you don't go there on turn 1, you're not going to get the Seraph Robe. And if you don't get the Seraph Robe, the game becomes a lot harder because you really want to get that Seraph Robe to Ike specifically. Giving Ike that Seraph Robe will make the entire game a lot easier, especially the early game, mid game, which is dangerous for Ike. So yeah, there's a little bit of a chump check there. If you don't move Titania early, you're not going to get it. Secondly, the enemies do a lot of damage, especially to Boyd, which, I mean, usually if you're doing a Maniac mode Iron Man, you don't care too much about Boyd. You care more about Oscar Ike support, and Boyd is sort of a, well, I'll make a tier list on this later. I think Boyd is somewhat of a trap unit. That being said, he's still useful in this map because you need 2 people to plug a hole, and there's a house you have to get. So because that house you have to get with Oscar, who's going to be covering, you know, the south hole with Ike, it's going to be Boyd. So he can die pretty easily if you're not vulnerating. And then, I don't even know if that's the way to say it. That's the way to say vulnerary is over vulnerating. But Ike and Boyd are both going to be healing a lot on this map. It's going to be kind of annoying. They're wasting so many vulneraries, but it is what it is. There's really no risk of dying as long as you're healing appropriately and you're staying at a range of 2 many enemies at a time. And the other nice thing about this map is that you kind of have weapon triangle advantage with Ike at all times. You never have weapon triangle disadvantage. There's no lances. So there's a few Myrmidons, but other than that, like, Ike's going to have 100% hit on all the bandits. So that's one nice thing going for you. It's always nice to have a early chapter where the Lord or protagonist has weapon triangle advantage, so it's easier to train him, and he's more reliable. So Ike is very decent on this map relative to your other units, so that's very nice. So all that being said, what is difficulty of this map? This map, BS, I put pretty low. The only BS thing about this map, again, is that Seraph Robe in the northwest. Not getting that is real killer for runs, I think. You don't get that Seraph Robe, it's very annoying. It's not difficult to identify that a bandit's going to get to that house, though. So the BS meter, I'm going to put a little lower than Prologue. I'll put it at like a 3, maybe even a 2. Let's just stick with 2, actually, because it's really not that... we'll go 3. We'll go 3, because it is a 1-turn thing. You only have 1 turn to figure it out. So BS meter 3, and then in terms of complexity, I think it's still not very complex. It's more complex than the Prologue, so I'll put it also at a 3. So both 3s. Now, how difficult it is, I think it's also a D tier. I think we'll put it 1 over Prologue for now. Yeah, I think I'm cool with that. Okay. Now, Chapter 2. So Chapter 2, this map is the first scary map, I'd say, where you actually feel some level of anxiety because of the situation you're in. A lot of these early game maps actually had that sort of vibe. But specifically this map, Chapter 4, Chapter 6 a little bit. So this map, if you don't know, you start off sort of surrounded by enemies. And you don't have Titania, you get Reese, which can heal, which is nice. And you have Boyd, Oscar, Ike, obviously. So on this map, if you don't play it correctly, which is building a wall and then having Reese heal your other 3 units, you're probably going to lose a unit because you get surrounded. It's hard to manage your units. You have no space. Luckily, here's the funny thing about Chapter 2. If you just end your turn instantly, so you start with your units, they're already in a formation that's actually great. They're already in the kind of the correct formation. You want Oscar in the north. You want Ike sort of diagonal to the right of him. You want Boyd 1 underneath Ike, and you want Reese behind all 3 of them. With that formation, you're already going to survive the initial onslaught, most likely. I think there's still a small probability of death if Ike gets a bunch of crits, but it's pretty unlikely. So in that regard, the BS is there, because a naive approach is to start moving your units to attack systematically, and if you do that, you're probably going to die. At least someone's going to die. So that's pretty annoying. But once you survive that initial onslaught, the nice thing is that Titania comes, like, I think end of turn 2. Don't quote me on that. Could be turn 3. But she comes out pretty quickly. And then when she comes out, she kind of makes the map a lot easier. You kill someone, Canto, block off other units from attacking your squishy, which is probably Boyd or Ike. and then it's easier from there. So after the initial onslaught, after the first 2 turns, I'll say, maybe 2 or 3 turns, the map is extremely simple. The bandits, they move, I don't know how they get triggered, but they move slowly. They only have like 5 move, and they don't move on their own. They sort of wait for you, and then they start coming, and they're very easy to deal with. The only units that are actually scary are Myrmidons on a lot of these early maps, actually. The Myrmidons are very scary. Bandits are not very scary. So, because of that, BS is definitely higher than Chapter 1. I'd put BS on at a 4 on Chapter 2. Complexity, the interesting thing is, I don't think this is more... Is it more complex than Chapter 1? I'd say probably not. But it is more difficult than Chapter 1. So, because of BS. So maybe BS actually goes up to a 5 on this one. It says BS is Prologue. Nah. Okay, I'll put it BS at a 5. Complexity at a 2. So less complex Chapter 1. About the same BS as Prologue. So ends up being above the 2 of them, but also still in D tier. It's still a very simple map, so can't really say it's too difficult. If you lose, I mean, you get unlucky, but you're usually not going to get that unlucky. Okay, so now we have Chapter 3. So Chapter 3 is one of the easier maps, I'd say, as long as you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you can very easily lose Marcio. So let's talk about it for a quick second. On non-Maniac mode, it's pretty simple to just approach this naively and still get Marcia. You have enough time to rush up there with with Titanium, Sheena, and Godtree. The units aren't strong enough to really deal with your units, and Marcia can probably dodge a few guys, and she's tanky enough to survive a few hits, and you get up to her, and it's perfectly fine. However, on Maniac mode, if you naively rush up to the trigger point, so it's sort of in between, there's a barrier, it's pretty obvious, there's a line. If you cross it, Marcia spawns. If you cross that line, like let's say turn 1, you're probably gonna lose your Marcia. Like, I'd say very likely to lose your Marcia, because there's so many enemies up there relative to the other difficulties. They all have weapon triangle advantage on her, so they're likely to hit her. She takes a lot of damage. She probably takes like 7 each, so she probably only takes 3 hits to be taken care of. And you're not going to be able to get up to her in 1 turn. So she'll have to survive like 2 or 3 rounds of combat, which is vulnerary, but I don't even think it's enough. So if you approach this chapter naively, you don't have previous knowledge about the trigger point, yeah, you're going to lose your Marcia. So if you're doing what I'm doing a Deathless Iron Man right now, that would be game over, right? In a regular Iron Man, you lose a good unit, right? So it's not the greatest in that regard. However, in terms of the actual difficulty, how at risk your other units aren't at real risk at all, I'd say. Like, sure, maybe Ike can get some unlucky hits on him, but really, it's not really the case. I've never had an Ike at risk in this chapter at any age in my life and at any difficulty, so I'd say the complexity is very simple. It's very easy. There's a house, there's bandits, you get the house, and they kill the bandits. There's not much to talk about this map. It's a pretty boring map. It's a pretty chill map. Again, it's just the Marcia rescue thing that puts in the BS level. So I'd put BS at a, it's tough because I might have to go back into these BSs. Because is this more BS in Prologue? Is potentially losing Marcia because of a knowledge check more BS and potentially game overing Prologue? Is losing Seraph Robe more BS? Is like, it's hard to measure. The fact that you lose Marcia is pretty rough, though. And would I say the average player would lose Marcia on this chapter? Without knowledge, probably yeah. On Maniac mode, probably would lose Marcia on average. So I think the BS is at least a 5. I don't know if I'm going up to 6 on this one. Put it at 5. Put it at 5. It'll put complexity at a 1. This is a very simple map. There's really nothing to worry about. There's nothing to think about. Kill the guys. Level up your Ike. Very simple. So because of that, so let me talk about the general strategy of why it's so simple. You just stall out before the invisible line, kill as many of the bandits as possible, and then once they're all cleared out, then you just rush up to Marcia, and there's no risk whatsoever. It's very easy. So putting that all into account, I'm going to put this, it's definitely below Chapter 2 in difficulty, is easier than Chapter 1. It is less complex, but it's more BS. So the fact that you can lose a Marcia is probably worse than losing a Seraph Robe. And some people are going to approach this naively and still try to get to Marcia and consider that their difficulty. So I'll put this above Chapter 1 for now. Yeah. I think that BS is just a little bit too much to be less than Chapter 1. So there you go. Okay. Chapter 4. So Chapter 4, I would say, is definitely a tier above, at least a tier above these other 4 chapters, if you want to consider the Prologue a chapter. So, one sec. So Chapter 4 is an insane chapter, in my opinion, like for this early in the game. This is where I think a lot of Maniac mode runs will die if they're going to die early. I think a lot of people lose units on this chapter. It's very scary. So you start off being surrounded by far too many units, and they all have a triangle advantage over Ike. Well, not all of them. There's a Axe guy. But even the Axe guy, he's so powerful, and he has still a decent hit on Ike, that if you get hit by him, you can easily lose your Ike. So on this map, there's a few approaches you can take. You can sort of go up to the north to where the grass is, or forest, I guess, to sort of get forest advantage and maybe build a wall there. I don't do that myself, but it's probably a good strategy to look into. I usually build just a wall where units spawn in, which is the bottom right. You build a wall with Titania, Godfrey, Ike, Sheenon, and then you have Soren, Reese doing their thing, and you're shoving with Ike and Sheenon after they do their thing. So let's say Reese heals Ike, shove with Ike, so that Reese is no longer in 1-2 range, or 2 range, not 1-2 range. So that's sort of the strategy. It's very simple. However, you can still die on this map with that strategy. My most recent run, my Ike was very close to dying. He was just killing too many things, and if you kill too many things, Ike kills himself. That's just how it is. So yeah, very scary map, very volatile. You kind of have to pray that it just works out. Luckily, after the first onslaught, it's pretty simple. Like, there's nothing really to worry about. You just draw enemies slowly, sort of train them. Be careful because they all kind of mess up Ike. This is the first chapter, I'd say, where Ike feels weak. Because Chapter 3, Ike feels very strong. Chapter 2, Ike feels fine. And Chapter 1, Ike feels strong. But yeah, Chapter 4, Ike feels... He's going to be messing things up. He's going to be doing a lot of damage. He's going to be... This is the glass cannon chapter for Ike. He's going to be blowing things up. He's going to be hitting himself. And the more he blows things up, the more at risk he's of dying. So, if you're doing an Iron Man, for example, and your Ike has been leveling up strength and speed, but not defensive stats, this is where the run might die. It's very likely you're going to be doubling and killing things and getting, you know, chunked for 12 by steel lances. And then Ike's going to be like, oh, shoot, I'm at 6 damage, turn 1. What's going on? So yeah. The nice thing about this map is this is where Ike gets the Regal Sword, which is huge. It's a great weapon. It makes him a lot better of a unit for early game. It lasts as long as you want to last. And it is effective against the boss in this map, so the boss is nothing to worry about, though. You kind of just feed the boss to whoever you want to get the XP. So with that being said, where does the map land? It's definitely at least C tier. It could be B tier, just because of the BS level. It's just... So I don't necessarily have constant weights for BS and complexity. It's sort of just a holistic thing, how I feel by intuition, feeling. So while this BS meter is going to be high, the complexity is pretty low. So it's going to be either B or C based on, well, it's going to be relative to these. I think it can stay in C tier for now. It might move up to B. So we'll see about that. But in terms of BS, this is definitely at least a 6 out of 10. There's not much you can do. You just have to hope that things work out. You have to hope that you got some good levels. Even if you apply the correct strategy. If you don't apply the correct strategy and you just approach this chapter naively, start moving your guys, don't build a wall, oh yeah, you're really screwed. Unless you're very lucky, I guess, right? Unless you're winging it in a really good way. So in terms of complexity, it does take a minute to realize how to make the wall. I usually make like a diagonal wall that's protruding with Titania at the front of it, Godfrey behind, and then Ike Sheenon next to each other. So complexity, I'd say, is definitely over a 1, but it's probably not more than a 3. I'll put complexity at a 3 here. And then in terms of BS, I'll put it at a 6. So I mean, we can also think that's a 9 out of 20 if we really want to add up those and see how that weighs out. I think it stays in C tier for now. It's just not complex enough. There's one, or let's say 2 difficult turns that are sort of not in your hands. I think that isn't enough to go to B tier at this point. But again, we'll talk about it in a second, or maybe later on this tier list. Okay, Chapter 5. So Chapter 5 is definitely a step below Chapter 4. Chapter 5 is much less scary. You can still die if you approach it naively, but this is a chapter where if you approach it with a correct approach, you almost cannot die. It's very difficult to die. And this chapter is also very boring, I'd say, if you are approaching it correctly. Approaching it naively, this chapter can be very fun, I think. Especially in the lower difficulties, this chapter is very fun. But yeah, on Maniac mode, you have to build 2 walls. And with those 2 walls, you just sit there. You sit there, you heal. You hope that you kill the boss with Titania or Gotri, or maybe even Ike if, you're just really ahead. So you can get, I believe, an Ashura icon. But that's all you're really worried about. You only have 6 turns to do it. You barely have enough time. It's sort of 50-50 whether you get it or not. It depends on your RNG and how strong your level ups were. But other than that, yeah, you stick Ike and Shinon, generally, to the west. So they're covering the west entrance. And then Titania and Gotri covering the south entrance. And that's basically it. Everyone else is just sitting in the back. Maybe you're doing, 2 range with Oscar, Javelin. Maybe you're using Soren and shoving, using Reese and shoving, rescue dropping. But other than that, it's very simple. So in terms of complexity, I don't know if I'll say it's a 1, because, yeah, you do have to know how to do this. It's not exactly the simplest thing to know which units to put where. It's not as simple as like the Prologue. So I'll put complexity at a 2 for this one. But BS, I'll put it at it's probably a 1. I don't think there's much BS in this map, especially because even at early maps, early maps are usually all BS because, you can die if you get unlucky, but even on this map, you can't really die. If you unequip Ike, unequip Shinon, well, actually, you need to unequip Shinon. Unequip Ike, it's very difficult for him to die. He's probably going to be fine. Gotri's going to be fine. Titania could die, I guess, if you are getting hit a lot, but that's not going to happen most likely. So, yeah, in terms of that, so complexity 2, BS, I'll say a 2, and I'd say this is right below Chapter 3. It's definitely more complex in Chapter 3, you definitely have to learn how to play this chapter, I guess, but the BS is just so much lower. The fact that Chapter 3, if you don't know, you're just going to lose Marcia, whereas on Chapter 5, if you play it wrong, let's say you put Ike on the south gate or south entrance, you're still probably going to be fine. Like, Ike might just become a killing machine, kill himself, but he's probably okay. So even with a slightly naive approach, the fact is, though, this chapter kind of tells you what to do. It's hard to have a super naive approach and lose the chapter. So that all being said, yeah, I think the BS is definitely lower. Complexity is about the same, so it goes a little bit below, still in D tier. Okay, let's talk about Chapter 6. So Chapter 6, I think, is actually a sleeper hard chapter. Again, these early chapters, it's more about the BS stuff. It's not really about the complexity. This chapter is a stealth chapter, I guess if you want to call it that. There's a stealth mechanic. Just like in Chapter 10, there's a stealth mechanic. But it only lasts for a few turns. So you start off in the forest, and once you come out of the forest, the soldiers see you, and they'll start rushing you. Until then, they're going to just sit there. So you sort of get to decide when you ambush the soldiers. However, you're not really going to be ambushing them. You're kind of just deciding when they ambush you. And the ambush isn't easy to deal with, even with Titania. So you have to really think about where you're going to place your units, when you're going to come out, who's going to be helping Titania, where Titania is going to go, how you're going to manage the aggro of the mages, the guy with the poleaxe. There's a lot of things to think about on Chapter 6. It's not as simple as you'd think. So, yeah, this is a map where you want to think about managing aggro and ranges and ensuring that Titania doesn't die. So, for instance, by the way, you're probably thinking Titania died. It's not really possible. If you put Titania out in the east corner, you come out from the north. Well, you're going to be coming up from the northwest. If you head towards the east soldiers with Titania, and you just let her take on all the cavaliers, all the mages, all the soldiers, she can definitely die. It's not extremely unlikely. The Pollux Sky does a lot of damage. If she gets by the Pollux Sky, it becomes a lot more likely. But she does take a lot of damage from the Steel Lance Sky. She's probably going to be at around 13 or maybe even less, like 12 defense at this point. Maybe 13. So she definitely takes enough damage to die here. So you sort of want to, again, manage your aggro. Take on the people you can with Titania as much as possible. And then after the turn ends, try to take on the rest, or at least manage the aggro again. Again, it's a balancing act, because if you don't take on enough people at turn 1 with Titania, what's going to happen is you're going to have all these units surrounding your squishies in Titania, and you really have nowhere to go. It's hard to move in the forest, for one. So what's going to happen is like, oh wait, I have no safe spaces for Reese, I have no safe spaces for Boyd, I have no safe spaces for Soren, or maybe one of them, only 2 of them can survive, whatever. And it ends up being kind of a cluster. Well, I'm not going to curse on this, but it ends up being a mess. So because of that, it's a very delicate chapter. Its first few turns really matter, but once those turns are done, it becomes very easy, and it actually becomes a little bit boring, because you're sort of just drawing out units, killing them slowly, drawing out units, killing them slowly, and then eventually getting to the escape space, I believe. So in terms of complexity, I would say even just the first 2 turns are complex. You have to think about the forest spacing, because they take up, I believe it's 3. I don't remember, but you sort of can count it within the chapter how many units of movement the forest takes up. I should know if it's 2 or 3 or 4, but whatever. It takes up more than 1. You sort of have to account for that when you're imagining where your units are going to go and how the enemy units are going to interact with them. And then you also have to know where you're going to be landing Titania, and how Ike most likely is going to be backing her up. Oscar's usually too weak to back anyone up at this point. It's usually just Ike with his Regal Sword. So yeah, even just that, I think it's complex enough. I know it's only like 1 or 2 turns you have to think, but my current Iron Man, I had to really think about the second turn, about I had to do like a shove mechanic situation. Like, there was something I had to do, I don't remember exactly, but it was like I had to see it or else there was some risk. So yeah, because of that, I'd put complexity at a 4 on this one, and there is some BS. I wouldn't say it's as BS as chapter 4, but there is some BS. So I did BS at I'd say this is like a 4-4. I'd say it's 4 complexity, 4 BS. Where does it land? I think right below chapter 4 here. I think this one's a little debatable. I think a lot of people think this one's easy, to be honest. But I've tried multiple strategies, and it always feels sort of like this area. Even if I land on the west area with the knights versus the east area, it actually feels harder. I think going to the east is the better idea. And even when you do that, it still feels pretty difficult for an early game map. So, yep. All right. So let's move on to chapter 7. This is chapter 7. Let's see. Yeah. So chapter 7, this map's hard. This map's pretty hard. Probably the hardest map so far we're going to be talking about. Yeah, I'd say so. The difficult thing about this map is that, well, okay. There is a strategy that I recently applied that makes this chapter a lot easier. But even still, I think this map is pretty complex, and we can't just assume you've theory crafted all these maps and know how to approach them in the best way. Like, the naive approach is going to happen, and you have to know, we have to account for the difficulty of approaching it naively. If you approach this map naively, you can lose your Titania. So I think what I used to do, and what a lot of people do, is you sort of have Titania take out all these units from the southeast to the southwest. Which is fine, but the thing is, if she takes all these units, she can very easily die. A lot of them have axes as well, so she's not going to have weapon triangle advantage on them, so they can definitely hit her. They have good damage. There's armor knights, so she's not going to kill those. She can get surrounded with no way out. You will probably have an elixir on her, so that's good, but she can definitely get trapped, and she can definitely get killed on this map if you approach naively. There's more risk of Titania dying here than the previous chapter, I'd say. Probably more so than definitely more so than any other chapter so far. Just these last 2, Titania has a risk of dying for the first time. Meanwhile, you have Mia coming out from the east corner, and you're going to have to go up there with your other units to sort of save her and kill the other units surrounding them and deal with all that thing, get the Armor Slayer. That isn't too difficult. Ike is usually strong enough to be perfectly fine here and kind of carry your other units. And Oscar will probably be good enough, or let's say you're leveling Boyd, whoever your second unit that's been leveling will probably also be fine enough to sort of carry the rest of your units through this map. It can be scary with Mia at the beginning, because there's a soldier and an archer with a steel bow, I believe, and they do a lot of damage, and you have Soren and Reese, they're still squishy. But again, you can usually build a wall if you can't kill them, and survive a turn, and then kill them the next turn. So yeah, it's not too difficult for them. It's more worrying about Titania than anything, which is weird. You're usually worried about the other units, not Titania. But this one, it kind of flips on its head. Now, I should mention the strategy that I used last time that seemed to sort of minimize this threat on Titania, which is just taking it slower. Is actually pretty simple. Maybe I'm the dumb one for not realizing this sooner, but you don't need to rush to kill the thieves. The thieves are going to come back around to get the Armor Slayer. So because of that, you actually don't need to rush too much, which is what I usually do, which is like, I need to get the barrier. I want to get the miracle. The barrier is more important though, but I gotta kill the thieves. And so if you have that mindset, that's where you end up rushing Titanium. You end up spawning extra units of Shin and Gotri, although the trigger point, I think, is more dependent on Ike and that group. The other group, the non-Titania group, I think it's like, well, I can't describe it verbally, but it's sort of in the middle of the map near the Armor Slayer area. Either way. Yeah, so if you rush to kill the thieves, that's where Ike Titanium get in trouble. But the solution is take it slower, let the thieves do what they want to do. They're going to come back around, and you will have time to kill them. Unless there's something I'm not aware of, but that's what happened last time I played this map, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. Now I got the miracle and the barrier, and I didn't even have to worry about it. And Titania's perfectly fine, so... Okay, a lot of explanation here. I didn't talk about Shin and Gotri, by the way. So Shin and Gotri are probably fine. Gotri's tanky enough to deal with anything. Shannon's gonna go behind Gotri and be perfectly fine. He's good at dealing with a thief if thief ends up in that area. You do want to make sure that Gotri probably isn't getting attacked by 3 at a time. I believe there's a Myrmidon with maybe it's not an Armor Slayer, maybe it might be an Iron Blade, something that does a lot of damage. And yeah, you want to be careful about that because they're probably going to double Gotri, and you're going to take a lot of damage. So yeah, you don't want to be killing too many things at a time, which with Gotri you're probably not going to be unless you got some speed level ups early chapters. You probably want to put him in the space where he's only taking 1 at a time, because you don't even want XP on Gotri necessarily, unless you're really going to use Gotri, which is actually viable if you go that Astrid, but we're not talking about units here. But yeah, most people I usually want the XP on my other units like Oscar. So okay, so chapter 7 complexity goes up. It's probably the highest complexity so far. I'd put it as far as a 6 as complexity. It might be a 5. It's between 5 or 6. The BS isn't that high. Yeah, it's really not that high. I put BS at like maybe a 3. Probably not higher than that. So yeah, 6 and a 3 ends up being in a 9. Whatever, doesn't really matter. It's not really part of the grading scale. Either way, it ends up being the hardest map so far. Top of C. Okay. Chapter 8. So, 1 second. Chapter 8 is a BS map, I'd say. The complexity is very low. The BS is decently high. It depends on your Ike. So, I would say if your Ike became really strong and really fast, but did not become tanky at all, maybe he still has single-digit defense or, whatever. Yeah, this map is pretty damn annoying. Again, I'll mention my current run. This is the only close call I've had so far, was on this chapter with Ike. He almost died because he was killing too many things, suffering from success. So if you have an Ike suffering from success, you can easily die by killing all the Arbor Knights when trying to rescue Ileana. So I should probably mention the strategy that I go with is Ike will be on the west side, Titania on the south, the other Cavaliers, Oscar unequipped, or whoever you're using unequipped on the east side, just tanking and sitting there and getting healed. and making sure healer's at a longbow range. Simple strategy. So complexity is very low. Similar to Chapter 5, it kind of just tells you what to do. It's very obvious that, oh, there's 3 entrances, there's a space I need to protect, so I probably just block these 3 entrances. And it makes sense. You get the Armor Slayer Chapter before, you have the Regal Sword, so why wouldn't you put Ike on the west side next to Ileana? And then also, if you've played this game before, you know that Ike needs to talk to Ileana, so more sort of a reason to put him on the west side. So, yeah, Chapter is very non-complex. There's not much you have to think about. The only thing is, again, I guess the preparation stage of where everyone goes, and then how you're going to be healing and shoving. There is some prep there. There is some management of aggro you do with Ike if you want to take on 2 at a time, 1 at a time, so that Ileana comes in, and before turn 8. But it's usually not too much of a risk. So complexity is probably at 2. But yeah, let's talk about BS. So BS is probably I'll put it at a 5, because the BS only affects 1 unit, which is Ike. Well, again, I'm assuming my strategy. There are different strategies you can apply here, but I'll just assume mine for now. If you're using Ike on the west side, I'll put it at a 5, because usually Ike is self-sufficient enough to be fine. You'll have a Seraph robe, most likely, if you've done everything correct at this point. He'll have enough defense to be fine, and he probably won't be strong enough to kill himself. The bigger issue will be, getting Ileana and killing enough things. But again, you have effective weapons, so it's not too bad. But yeah, if you get weird level ups, really strong, yeah, you can just die here. So actually, because there really is a lack of agency when I think about it. Yeah, when I think of it, because of the lack of agency, I'm gonna put it at 6 BS. 6 BS, 2 complexity. Yeah, because I think there's less agency than even on Chapter 4, maybe? Because Chapter 4, I think that you're less likely to just insta-die if you get unlucky. I think it's more likely on Chapter 8 if you get a bad Ike. I did think about this one. We're going to stick with 6 for now. Okay, 6 BS, 2 complexity. So ends up at 8. I wouldn't say it's as hard as Chapter 7. I don't know if it's as hard as Chapter 4. It's definitely C tier, though. I think people are actually more scared of this map than everything else on here, by the way. Like, I think most people would put this top of these maps, maybe even B tier, just because it is a very intense map, especially when you think of the lore, what just happened. But realistically, it isn't that bad. I guess you do have to get Ileana. That adds the complexity. You do have to talk to her with Ike. So there is that. I'll put it below Chapter 7, actually. Yeah, it's very hard. I'm between this space and this space. I think it's definitely easier than Chapter 7, but I can't tell if it's harder than or easier than Chapter 4. I'll put it harder for now, just because of Ileana. Because it is something to worry about. It's an actual thing to worry about. So maybe complexity goes up to 3 and BS is at 6. So we'll do that. Complexity 3, BS 6. There it is. Okay. Okay, let's get into Chapter 9. So, Chapter 9... Oh, I haven't been doing enjoyability at all, by the way. Oh my god. Okay, we're not really doing... This is an enjoyability tier list. Just scrap it. But I will say this is probably my least favorite map in the game. On Maniac mode. It is just... It is not fun for me. Yeah, like, I'll talk about it in a second, but... this is a map where you get Morgan and Letty as partner units. You get Rolf, Mist, and you get Marcia, like turn 3 or something like that. And is that it? Yeah, I believe that's it. So you get a lot of units on this map. You get 2 partners for the first time, and there's a lot to do. Well, not a lot to do, but there's a few really important things you want to do. So there's those 2 villages on the northwest, and the 2 villages, one of them has something really good, which is a talisman. It's going to be the very top left one. The one below that has a restore staff. The thing is, I don't remember if hard mode is just like this, but I don't think so. Maniac mode, like, the pirate is so... he's on the move. He's there, he's on the move, it's hard to catch him. You have to use Letty to catch him. So you have to manage your partner unit enough to get the pirate. The only thing is, you also have Mordecai lugging along, and he's gonna get hit. He's probably gonna be fine because he transforms eventually, but you can't manage him one at a time, so it can be very annoying to sort of track down his pirate, because Mordecai's going to be taking damage from the other units. A lot of these are going to be trying to get to the pirate, but you can't really control it. You sort of have to put her on attack mode, and it's whoever's guess, like anyone's guess who she's going to attack. She probably attacks the squishies. So it's very weird. It requires a lot of knowledge about what's going to happen with the units that aren't under your control. And even if you have all that knowledge, there's no guarantee you're getting that village. So that's one really annoying thing. My strategy usually have Ike, Titania, and maybe Storm going for the village as fast as possible, trying to clear the way. And I get it some of the times, maybe 50-50, but my last run was a disaster. Like, I put on attack mode, and they ended up going the other direction and attacking the units in the south. It was very, very frustrating. So I did not get either village. So I will say, though, if you do it on an average run, you're progging the Talisman, which is, +2 resistance, which is great, and which is what you really want. You really care too much about the Restore Staff. It doesn't really help you at this point in the game, and when it is helpful, you're going to be able to buy them anyway. So, so that all being said, the villages, that's part of the BS. It's like, the villagers are very annoying to deal with, the partner units are annoying to deal with. Now, the other thing is the initial onslaught from the south. There's a bunch of soldiers and myrmidons, and I think a few archers. It's actually pretty difficult to deal with, depending on how your units leveled up. Especially if you're trying to get those villages and you're using Titanian Ike. Because my Oscar last time was not good enough to deal with them. And sure as hell, my Mia and Rolf and whoever, Boyd, weren't good enough to deal with them. So I ended up having to use Titania back and forth to sort of deal with those units. The north units, Ike to use, same thing with Ike, same thing with Levy, Mordecai. It was very annoying. But if you have a self-sufficient Oscar or a good Oscar, it's going to be a little bit easier to manage. You can sort of just bait them out, heal, bait them out, and you're probably fine. But if you're not fine, you may end up in a situation where you're a little bit, not checkmated, but you have so many squishy units, not a lot that can guard. I think it's like a 3-tile wide space that you need to guard. Yeah, it ends up being a weird situation. So initial onslaught is a little difficult to deal with. Getting the villages at the same time is a little difficult to deal with. So complexity probably goes up to, I don't know, a 4, because it's not that complex, but it's annoying to deal with. And you do have to know what to do, and you do have to manage your partner units. So we'll say a 4, just because the early part is where everything's decided. Now, the thing is, after the early game, the rest of the game is very simple, but it's very drawn out. Like, you have to really move slowly. There's a lot of reinforcements that come out the south. I'll talk about in a second, but the units are pretty strong. Your units are probably not good enough to deal with them. Especially if Ike and Titania, or whoever your strong units are on the beach, dealing with the pirates, which, they're going to have to deal with, right? So, yeah. And then you're going to have your units in the south waiting for your babysitters to come over and help them out. And then once they come over, you're sort of drawing out the rest of the units slowly and surely, killing them, chipping them, finally killing them. And then once you finally get close to the boss, out pops out like 10 more units. And then now you have to really manage your aggro and be careful and try to, sort of manage XP gains and all that stuff. And I think my last time I played this, it was like 50 turns. Like, it is not an enjoyable map. It's probably my least favorite map in the game. On Maniac mode. I don't know about normal mode, or even hard mode, but yeah, Maniac mode's not my favorite. So yeah, that's the map. The boss isn't hard to deal with. The mages don't move, so that's nice. Complexity 4, BS. There isn't that much BS is with the partner units, the villages. I'll also put at a 4, so maybe complexity actually might be a 3, but you'd have to get Marcia, which isn't difficult. I'd put this probably here, probably bottom of C, because there's that much risk of dying. It's just slightly more complex in these maps. So yeah, we'll say BS of 4, complexity of 3, and it goes right here, bottom of C. Okay, take another break. It's getting a little lightheaded here. Okay, now we're on to chapter 10, which is the jailbreak chapter, where you get rescue Nephany, Braum, Kieran, and there's, what was her name? Seraphine or something, or his name, Seraphine, something like that. Seraphine, can't get them though. So this map, I would say, well, I'll just talk about it real quick before I say what I think about it. There's 2 ways to approach this. You can do the stealth way to get bonus XP, which is pretty difficult. And if you're doing an Iron Man, I would definitely advise against it, because if you mess up, you're probably screwed. Like, you're probably going to lose your units, and it's going to be really a disaster. So I would not advise that in Iron Man mode. And if you do this regularly, it's actually a lot easier, and you still get a crap ton of XP. And I don't know, I had to think about the opportunity cost about not doing stealth mode in terms of XP gains. But in my opinion, it's just, I don't know. I have no problem doing just regular mode. I don't really struggle with XP throughout the game if I just do it regularly and just, you know, get ambushed. Let myself get ambushed, because the ambush is not hard to deal with. There's only 2 ambushes that come out. You have time to respond to them, I guess, unless you're really naive and let them find you. Enemy phase. But you're probably going to attack that soldier at turn 1. They're going to pop out. You have time to respond, block off the entrance where you spawn from. And then there's units that are coming from the east side, which you have more than enough time to deal with. And they're all pretty weak. And chapter ends up feeling like a training chapter, a chess chapter, and getting some units chapter. So it's pretty nice. It's pretty, you know, it's an easy chapter, chill chapter after sort of the brutal, well, not brutal, but the BS early game, where you can sort of die a lot of situations, where this one you can't really die, and you're more just training. Now, it's not the most fun map, in my opinion, but it's more of just like, think of it like a Tower of Olymp map, you know, it's training. So yeah, complexity is very simple. It's like, if you're doing stealth, obviously complexity goes way high. If you're doing stealth mode, it ends up like at 9 or 10, because stealth is very difficult. You have to really manage your units. You have to figure out the patterns. You probably just look it up though. And then regular mode, it's like a 1 or a 2. Like, it's very non-complex. So the only thing is you do have to know to talk to the units, which is whatever. It's a thing. It's not really difficult. And you have to know on Maniac mode, you have to target the escape square and let the 3 units, Braum, Nephany, Kieran, escape to get them. I believe. I mean, that's what I've read. I've never not done that, so it's possible that's wrong. But yeah, as far as I know, you need them to escape. This is the chapter I usually get Oscar promoted, because again, it's like a training chapter, so it's very nice. And you get some good items here too. So yeah, complexity I'd say is a 2. BS is like a 1. So this is arguably the easiest map so far. Maybe even easier than the Prologue. That's what I'd say. Is it easier in Chapter 1 Prologue? I do think it's easier in Chapter 1. It's easier in Prologue. Yeah, I do think so. I think it's the easiest chapter so far. That might be a hot take to say that Chapter 10 is easier than Prologue in terms of difficulty, but again, if you skip to this point, the reason Prologue is even considered not F tier is the BS. The fact that you can die turn 2 or turn 1, and yeah, turn 2, turn 3 if you attack first. If you don't know that, you have to wait in front of Boyd, let him attack. You know, it's whatever. You have to use the vulneraries defensively and not attack yourself, right? So, and because we're doing more of the Iron Man flavor, that ends up being high in the BS meter. So, yeah, I'll give the first hot take. Wait, not the first hot take. In my opinion, the first hot take, which is putting this the easiest in the game so far. Okay, now we get to not the easiest in the game. We get to Blood Runners Red, Chapter 11, one of my favorite maps. I think a lot of people love this map. I think it kind of tricks you into thinking you're doing a lot of things at once, which you're really not, but it is a fast map, which is fun. So yeah, you spawn, you know, southeast corner, and there's a few things you have to take care of. You have to get Zehark with a Laguz. You have to go all the way up to the top left to obviously arrive. That's the main objective. You have to get 2 different houses, actually 3 different houses, and one of the houses you can't get with the Laguz, so you have to get probably Zehark. There's a Black Knight that's going to spawn at some turn, don't know, from the house in sort of the center east-north area. And then the big kicker, the really annoying thing on this map, is Jill and her Wyvern buddies spawn bottom right at some point. So you have to be moving. If you are just stalling and waiting for things to happen, this map is not going to go well for you. You're going to lose Jill. You're going to lose, maybe you won't lose Zehark, but it's going to be annoying. You're going to lose a Draco Shield. An Elwind isn't a big deal, maybe a Killer Lance. So you have to be moving. And the annoying thing is your units usually aren't strong enough to deal with the initial units that spawn near you quickly. Because again, you're moving the Laguz upwards towards those houses with the Vigilantes and trying to get Zehark. So you know, maybe Levy attacks one, maybe not. But you're sort of like relying on Kieran to do some damage, Soren, maybe even Ilyana. Like, you're relying on your whole team to sort of chip away at these soldiers that spawn right next to you. And guess what? If you mess up that order of attacks, and let's say you're just really inefficient, let's say, you know, you attack for 20 damage, and then you kill with it, some of that doubles for 15, and now you just overkilled by, you know, let's say, I don't know, 12 or something, and now you don't have enough damage to kill another soldier, and guess what? You have no safe spaces for your Reese, no spaces for your Mist, no safe spaces for your Storm, whomever, and now you're screwed, right? So this is a map where you have to really think about your order of attacks, you have to keep checking, and that's not the only thing you have to deal with. You have to, again, move the Lagoos up, and you have to try to get, well, you should try to get the Draco Shield and stop the onslaught coming from the northwest area with the Cavaliers, Knights, and Mages. Probably with Titania, but if your Oscar's good enough, your Oscar can do that and get the Elwind. So, yeah, there's a lot of things to do. You have to move fast. And that's just the early game. You know, once you get past the early game, there's still things to worry about, which is namely the Black Knight. You know, you're going to take on that boss, which isn't too bad. The Black Knight comes out. Usually what's going to be, the situation you're going to be in is that the Black Knight's going to have your Laguz units and Zihar cornered. As long as they dealt with those Cavaliers correctly, because the Cavaliers are no joke. They do like 16 damage to Zihar, so 2 hits will probably kill him. He doesn't double them. He does double them, but he definitely doesn't kill them. And your Laguz are untransforming at that point in the game. So they're no joke. You have to really be careful and manage your threat there, manage who's getting attacked when. Especially because you also get the House of Zihar, so there's no choice there. So you might have to waste a Laguz Stone. Kind of get on a tangent here, but either way, when you deal with that guy, or those guys, the Black Knight's going to come out, and he's going to move not as far as you think. You know, you click on his range, you're like, oh, I'm really screwed. I think he only moves 3 spaces per turn, instead of, I think he shows like 6, with, 1-2 range. So he's not a big deal, but once he comes out, you have to finish the map. You have to, because if you're going to have your Laguz and Zihar pincered the Black Knight and the Jill's units. So that's a big issue. You have to finish the map. You have to arrive. And it's not that easy to arrive. There's an Armor Knight blocking it. There's some tough Cavaliers. There's, again, the boss. You know, you want to get... Oh, there's a few things. You also want to get the Physics Staff from the Thief, or from the Priest. So you want to bring Volk on this map. But, yeah. There's a lot of things you got to do. The only thing I'll say is it is all very manageable. It's not like the most difficult thing in the world. Usually this map goes very smoothly for me, but it gets your heart pumping, you know? It's a very exciting map. It's a very fun map. This is, one of my favorite maps again. Maybe S tier in my enjoyability factor. Maybe I'll make an enjoyability tier list one day. I was going to do that here, but yeah, it's just too much to talk about when it comes to difficulty to talk about enjoyability as a side note. So yeah, complexity, probably a 7. Definitely higher relative to Path of Radiance. And then BS is pretty low, actually. Like, there isn't that much BS to deal with. I don't consider the Black Knight BS. I consider that complexity. I don't consider Jill BS. I consider that complexity. I don't consider the initial units BS. I consider that complexity. So, yeah, BS is like, I don't know, a 2. Like, it's pretty damn low. So, yeah, I'll put this maybe, could be top of C. I'm put this at bottom B just because I'm going to weigh the complexity a little higher than the BS. So even though it got like a 9 overall rating, yeah, we're putting this B tier for now. So first B tier finally. It does seem like I didn't really think of this when I was making the tier list. I thought the difficulty curve would be kind of interesting because I think early games usually kind of scary. But as I've been going through this list, the difficulty curve has been sort of linear. Just going, a Y equals X, slope rate. So yeah, we'll see if it keeps going on that trend though. But yeah, so far, latest chapter is the hardest chapter. Okay, chapter 12. So chapter 12 is a boat map. Similar if you played Sacred Stones, you haven't played this map, which I assume is a minority of you guys, but it's kind of like Phantom Ship, but easier. It's not as crazy as Phantom Ship. But you still have to be careful. You still have to defend your squishies, and there's still some annoying things in this map you have to think about. So this is also the map where, you get Jill, you have Zihar now, you sort of are choosing which units you're going to use for the entire game. So, there's a lot of different strategies, there's a lot of versatility in this game when it comes to Maniac mode and what you can use. which I'll talk about in another video, by the way. That's really fun, doing unit analysis and thinking about different strategies. Either way, this is where a lot of people get Jill and are very excited. So yeah, let's talk about it. So this map, just birds coming out with a lot of speed. They do a decent amount of damage. They're going to be hitting you. They're going to be doubling some of your weaker units, and you're going to have to be defending your squishies. So usually, I don't think I deploy every unit that's available. I think there's 9. I deploy like 8, something like that. And I usually have like my squishies being Miss and Soren being defended at all times. On all 3 sides, they're going to be sort of like, you know, pressed up adjacent to, what do you even call that thing in the ship? I don't know what you call it. Like a buoy? Probably not a buoy. I don't know what you call it. There's some sort of structure in the middle of the ship that you press your units against. That sort of blocks off one space, and you have 3 less squishy units blocking off the other 3. That's sort of your setup here. You're sort of trying to kill the birds as fast as possible once they get on the ship, because if you don't, you're going to get overrun, and it's going to be a problem because, spoiler alert, even though you have your squishies being defended, the defenders aren't usually tanky enough to defend for more than 1 turn. Because usually you're going to have Kieran as a defender, and he generally gets doubled by birds, and can even get, maybe not one-rounded, but I've seen a lot of people lose Kierans on this map. I think it's the map where I see the most Kieran deaths. So yeah, Kieran definitely can die here. Mordecai can get in some trouble here, because he definitely gets doubled. Oscar Ike, I don't know, you're probably, if Boyd's here, he's probably not, Boyd could probably die here. Boyd can die anywhere if you're using him. So there's a lot of things to worry about. Yeah, there generally is a lot of things to worry about, and the problem is, like, it's not easy to kill the birds. Like, Ike is pretty good here. One reason why Ike is higher on my tier list, by the way, if you notice throughout this game, he's always going to have a weapon that's good with him. You know, he gets a Regal Sword that's good for early game, and now he gets the Lagoose Slayer, which is good for this map. It's good for a later map, right? So Lagoose Slayer is very powerful here. It almost one-shots these birds. Your Ike is probably not doubling these birds. I don't think it's possible unless he gets like 20 speed. So he's gonna be doing a lot of damage to these birds. You know, it's gonna be putting him at like single-digit health, low enough for, you know, whoever you're leveling to come in, kill them, or a paladin to come in, Canto, then come back and defend your squishy. So, you know, you have some solid units here to do damage. Ike, Titania, Oscar. You should probably be using Oscar, by the way, if you haven't played Maniac mode. And I've been using Zerhark a lot, which is, again, we're going to be talking about that in another video. I think Zerhark's way underrated in this game on Maniac mode, but Zerhark's pretty good here too. If you give him Lagoose Slayer, give Ike like a Forge, like they do a lot of good work. Yeah, and then Soren can sometimes get a cheeky wind attack, like, but it's kind of rare. It doesn't happen too often. It's not really a big factor. Now, the other thing about this map is that you'll probably have Mist with a Physics Staff if you stole it last chapter, which is really nice. You know, it helps your defenders keep defending because, you know, you have a Physics Staff out there. And I would say don't be afraid to use that Physics Staff, because if you're using Volk smartly and stealing as many Physics Staffs as you can, you're probably not running out too many Physics Staffs in this game. You're probably going to be fine throughout the game. So, yeah, I had to think about that, but yeah, I think you're fine throughout the game for the most part. So, okay, we haven't really talked about the difficulty, but just kind of talking about how this map works. Difficulty, yeah, the units are strong, they're annoying, they come at you, but they don't really ambush you, like in Phantom Ship, for example. They sort of go at the edge of the boat where they can't attack you. It looks like they can attack you, but they can't. And you sort of get a turn to respond. There's no fog. That's the really important thing. Even on Maniac mode, there's no fog. You can see the birds. So, again, they ambush you, but they're not going to be able to hit you. So, that's really nice. And they all have good items, so that's really nice, but it doesn't really factor in difficulty. So, you know, complexity is pretty low. I'd say it's like a 3, because you do have to manage your units. It might be a 4, actually, because you have to manage your Canto moves pretty well. You have to manage who you're defending pretty well. You have to swap places a lot throughout this map. So I actually want to put this up to a 4, which might be a hot take. I think a lot of people would say the complexity is like 3, and BS is a little bit higher, but I think complexity is included when it comes to the fact that you're swapping units with Canto to defend different areas, and you're managing threat. So yeah, I'm going to put complexity at a 4. And then BS, I do think this map is a little bit BS. It's a little bit annoying, because you are just sitting there and swapping and trying to manage aggro, but it's not that bad. I'd say the BS might be about equal to complexity, about 4, maybe even 3. So yeah, overall, this is not B tier. This is a C tier map. Probably, it's definitely above Chapter 9. Is it above Chapter 7? Or 6? Is above Chapter 6? I would say it's above Chapter 6, actually. Yeah. So it's in C tier, middle C tier. Could be below Chapter 6, but I do think the swapping unit spaces and thinking about that stuff, and there is more to think about than Chapter 6, where Chapter 6 is more of just one turn where you have to turn your brain on. This one, you have to turn your brain on and sort of stay on edge for most of the map. Still not too difficult, though. Definitely not as difficult as, like, you know, Chapter 11, but it's up there. Okay. It's not up there. Sorry. It's still something. Okay. Now we're getting to maybe my favorite map in the game. I don't know. It's S tier for me when it comes to maps in this game. I really like it, and it's also very hard. So, this map, Chapter 13, the one where you get Gotri and Astrid, there is BS, for sure. There is definitely complexity. And it's definitely very fun. So, this is the map where it has Norris in the top right. You have birds that attack you, some that don't. So you need some prerequisite knowledge to attack this map in an Iron Man, I'd say. Yeah, by the way, I'd say you probably should never do a blind Iron Man of Maniac mode. You're gonna really not have fun. There's gonna be some chum check that happens, and you're gonna be like, wow, I should just look this up. You know, this is a good example of that. So this map, for example, turn 1, I'd say maybe it's not necessary completely, because the green units do take aggro, but I think it's necessary. You have to get Astrid turn 1, Astrid Gotchi turn 1. And the way to do that is you have to, like, smite Ike and shove him, or shove him 3 times, I don't know, but usually just smite and shove. And then you sort of, you know, get Astrid, use Astrid to get Gotri, Kanto back. Gotri tries to sort of fill the hole, or at least guard in some way, maybe get some damage in, yada, yada, yada. So, turn 1 is very important. You gotta get Astrid, you gotta get Gotri, you gotta put them in good positions. You gotta make Astrid sure Astrid is safe, because she's gonna be your weakest unit at this point in the game. She's gonna be level 1 Paladin, or sorry, Cavalier with a little bow. Does like 1 damage. So that's first thing, this map. Turn 1 is very important. And then you want to defend your units, because, yeah, again, there's an onslaught that's happening on all sides now. You have, you know, birds coming from the sky. You have units coming from 3 different bridges. Some of which don't move, some of which do move. Like, you have to look that up, I guess, but I can never find the information on this stuff. I kind of just figured it out as I go. There isn't really great, well, there is probably a great guide somewhere. I just can never find it on the, you know, top searched Fire Emblem Maniac mode results. But either way, it seems like some of the Halberdiers move, some don't. And yeah, you get to block them off so that, you know, the units don't just come storming in. Because, yeah, most of your units cannot deal with the onslaught. You have Thunder Mages, you have Fire Mages, you have crazy strong Myrmidons, you have Archers, you have Halberdiers, and you have the birds. So there's so much to deal with. I guess I should refrain from making a guide on this within this video, but there's just so much to deal with. It is all doable, though. I'd say the last time I played this map, which was a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, was the best I've ever done in it. I feel like I found a good strategy for it. The main thing being dealing with the birds as early as possible. That would be my advice. Try to get your strongest unit over to those birds, kill them, and then block off those other areas. And then, I didn't mention, more birds come. Luckily, they don't attack you, but they're stealing the most valuable chests in the game. Are they most valuable? I'd say they're probably the most valuable chests in the game. Yeah, do you get another Cult Scroll from a chest? Maybe Chapter 27? I don't know. I think there is another Cult Scroll you get, like Chapter 27, but either way, there's a Cult Scroll, there's energy drops for the Speed Wing, then that's on the second boat. That's the third boat. That's the harder one to get, and the birds are definitely going to be trying to get those. The birds are not easy to kill, because again, it's hard to double them, so you have to get over there fast. You have to kill them as quickly as possible, or else you're losing your Cult Scroll. And that Cult Scroll is gigantic, because you really want to have Soul and Ether Chapter 19, or Chapter 18, onwards. So, yeah. We'll talk more about that stuff later, but, yeah. So, those chests are very annoying to deal with, because that also means you're probably bringing Vulcan Soth on this map, this is a map where the only map I deploy South, by the way, which is fun for me. South is like my favorite character, most likely in Talrega series, so, you know, good to see him get some work in, but yeah. Anyways, I'm going way too long on this map. So complexity is like basically as high as you get in Path of Radiance. Like, let me look. Yeah, it's basically as high as you get in Path of Radiance. I'll put complexity at a 9. I don't know if I'm going to say anything's like, I don't know if I can even say a 10 is existence. Like, I'm not going to even say it's an absolute 9. Sure, it's a relative 9, but there might not be any 10s either. Like, relative to what I expect Path of Radiance to deliver in a Maniac mode, this is a 9 in complexity. And BS is pretty low. Like, there's not much BS. It's just, you know, watch that space you have to defend, make sure you defend it, you know, rush to get the birds, block off the spaces that are, you know, where units are coming in, make sure you get Ash. The only BS is that first turn, because, you know, the naive approach, you're going to lose your Astrid, which is pretty annoying. Astrid's pretty damn useful in this game, I'd say. Great unit train because she has good support with Makalov, fine support with Gautry, but, you know, not unit analysis, but she's really good with Makalov. So I'm going to put this complexity 9 BS 3. I'm going to put this S tier for now. Yeah, put this S tier. I think this is relative to Path of Radiance, not the hardest map in the game, but potentially the first S tier. Could be top of A, but I'm going to put this S tier for now. I feel good about it. Feel okay about it. Okay. So, all right, let's move on to training. So training, I mean, the map is pretty funny in terms of its name. It does feel like a training map for the most part. However, I don't know. Like, it feels like a training map when you're a kid because, you know, you see this pink-haired idiot and you're like, oh, I'm just going to kill a pink-haired idiot and get his red gem, you know? But as an adult and playing Maniac mode and wanting one of the best units of the game, this map becomes a little bit more annoying to deal with because you have to get Makalov. You have to save him, or you have to talk to Marcia, which maybe you are leveling Marcia, maybe you're not. If you're not, you know, you have to be careful with her. And then with Makalov, once you talk to him, you have to make sure he's safe as well because he's going to be weaker than the units surrounding him, you know? On top of that, there's those 2 houses you have to get, one of which is incredibly important. That's the Vantage Scroll, which you really want to put on one of your strong units. I just put on Z-Arc. Z-Arc with Adept Vantage is really strong. Anyways, so yeah, getting Makalov is pretty difficult this map. You have to really have a plan. You're probably bringing your Paladins, Levy, obviously Marcia, and maybe even another backup unit to go up there, maybe like Mordecai, and you're running up there as fast as possible. The other entrance, or whatever, other bridge leads to the boss area, you know, it goes to the center, north, and usually you bring Ike, Oscar, or Ike, whoever else, you know, whoever else you're leveling up there. It's not a big deal. There's one guy, the Poleaxe, you have to watch out for, so if you're leveling a Cavalier, watch out for them. Other than that, it's perfectly fine. There's 2 bandits at the bottom right in the fog, watch out for them. Oh yeah, did I mention there's fog? Yeah, fog is pretty annoying. That's what makes this map even more annoying, because you're trying to rescue Makalov blindly, so you really need the prerequisite knowledge. I'll quickly talk about my strategy for that, by the way, because I do want this tier list to at least be somewhat informative. If you try to figure out how to do Chapter 14, it'd be cool if you could come to this video and figure out, you know, what I do. So what I do is I bring Titania, Levy, maybe Oscar, if I'm worried about Titania, even with a Knight's Guard, whatever you call it. And I'm worried about killing all the enemies. But you want to kill the enemies as fast as possible with Levy, Titania. You want to make sure you don't run into a bandit before you can attack them. And then you kill the bandits, kill whatever, and then you sort of block off the bridge in which the Cavaliers are coming out with Titania or Levy, but probably Titania because there's a Laguz Lance. Although she has a Laguz Guard, so it's not a big deal. But either way, probably Titania. And then you definitely unequip Titania. Definitely unequip her. So she's going to take some damage. You might have physics staff her at that point, because maybe she took some damage from the Steel Axe guys. Maybe not. But when that happens, she's going to tank the Makalov hit, and you're going to have time to, you know, talk to Makalov with Marcia. And then from there, hopefully you brought enough units to take on all the Cavaliers, and then go up to the houses, get Vantage Scroll, get the other one, which I'm not sure what it is. Is it Spirit Dust? No, Spirit Dust is the other one. Whatever. And yeah, that's a chapter. Like, the rest is pretty simple. There is the boss of the Killer Axe, though. Okay. This is the last thing I'll talk about on this map in terms of strategy. The Killer Axe boss, he's a berserker with a Killer Axe. You can kill your guys, you know, especially if you're doing Iron Man, which again is more oriented towards Maniac mode with a sort of Iron Man playstyle. It's going to be annoying to get crit by him, you know. Luckily, at this point, you could have you should have, oh, hold on one sec. You should have an A support with Ike Oscar. Now, that A support will give them plus 30 avoid when they're next to each other. So ideally, you have Ike Oscar take on the aggro from the boss, and what will usually happen is Ike will have 0% chance of getting hit because he has weapon triangle and plus 30 avoid, and he's probably level 20 with good speed. So he's 0% hit on Ike, so he can't kill Ike. And then he'll have some hit on Oscar, most likely, because Oscar won't have weapon triangle advantage. However, he will probably survive the hit at this point, especially given the Knight's Crest, Knight's card. I should know what it's called. I've just been playing Japanese so much that I don't know what it's called, but let's just call it the Knight's card, okay? So, yeah, in that case, you're kind of covered in options there with the A support, but it's still annoying to deal with, and if you approach it naively, just go up to the Fog of War with your training units, for example, getting attacked by the Lagoos, which are very strong, by the way, and the Killer Axe Berserker, you can definitely die here. So, yeah, be careful about that. Other than that, map isn't too bad. It's just, again, the Fog of War. So, complexity, there's a lot of things to do, a lot of things to know about. There is some BS, because I would say the things you have to know about are kind of annoying to learn about, and you probably learn it through trial and error. You know, you probably learn from a painful experience about recruiting Maclaws. So I put BS at like a 5. Complexity, probably at a 3 or 4, maybe 4 here. Because it's hard to say, this is one of the maps where it's kind of gray about what's BS, what's complexity. I'm leaning towards the Maklov stuff as BS, a little bit more so than I would on other maps, whereas, you know, I'd just call that complexity, because it is annoying that's Fog of War. You just need to know about the stuff before you start the map, you know? You can't really prepare for it. So yeah, I'll put C tier. I'll put it probably, is it top of C? The Maklov thing is pretty annoying. I'll put it below Chapter 7 and from Chapter 8. I think I feel okay with that. Maybe this is the map I feel most uncertain about, by the way. Fog of War is just hard to judge sometimes, especially because there is a bias. I do know how these maps work. You know, I've played them enough times in Maniac mode to know. So maybe someone getting into Maniac mode is like, what the hell? You said this is a C tier. This map sucks. You know? So yeah, I would say take it with a grain of salt, my opinion on this one. Any of the Fog of War maps, which it's just this one, right? I think it's just this one. So yeah, it might be harder for a new player. It might be in B tier, but for me, I'd say it feels more like C tier. Okay. Chapter 15. This is a desert map where you get treasure, you get stuff on if you know what to do. Go to the Space of Levy and Mordecai. Good treasure here. Silver Blade, Guard, or is it Cancel or Guard? I think it's Cancel, actually. Or maybe, whatever. Physics Staff, Divine, Boots, top right, most important thing, gives you +2 move. And there's another thing on this unit, or on this chapter, where if you want to exploit, which I do not do my Iron Mans, because I think it kind of trivializes parts of the game. I wouldn't say it makes the game too easy, but I just don't feel good about it. You could boss grind Muram with Astrid. You could do that. You'll probably get like 8 levels or something like that, even more. Like, you have to bring extra weapons. I've done it once and made the rest of the run really easy, so I haven't done it since. So you could do that. So this map is, I consider, a training map. That first turn can be a little scary because you don't know how far the Lagoos move. It doesn't really show the indicators. You have to think about it. But it's not a hard map if you've trained your unit to this point. It's more of like a like an annoying map where you have to look up a guide. Where is the treasure? Oh, not here. Oh, I didn't get it yet. Oh, okay. Oh, you know. So that's the map. So this is probably the easiest map so far. Is it easier in this? I mean, you guess the Lagoos can be annoying, but not really. Like, they're really not bad to deal with. I don't know if it's a tier below Chapter 10. It might just be bottom of D. I think I'll put this F tier in terms of difficulty. I think it is that easy. And the fact that you can also exploit this map to sort of get ahead makes it also F tier. It also makes it less difficult. So, yeah, complexity 1, BS like 1. I wouldn't say this map is as easy as it can get, even though that rating would make it seem that way. I just don't know if I can say it to 2. It might be like a 1.5, 1.5, you know, like, I don't know. Like, it's just that first turn, I guess there's a bird that will attack you, you know? It's like, at this point in the game, though, your units are prepared to deal with everything, you know? So, yeah. Bottom, easiest map so far. Okay, Chapter 16, definitely a step up. Still not a terribly difficult map. There's just one situation that's a little annoying to deal with, which is snipers with a killer's bow and steel bow, and trying to make sure you tank them while trying to get the thieves to kill the thieves, get the full guard, the Draco shield, and all that. Yeah, I'll say this map. After this map, I'm going to take a break. I'm starting to get lightheaded, talking too much. But yeah, this map, there's a few things going on. There's reinforcements coming out, usually used as a train. There's chests to get, there's thieves to kill, and there's 2 spaces to block off. You know, that's the map. There's Debdan to recruit as well. So, Debdan. So, there's a few things to do, but all of them are very manageable. None of it feels difficult. Doesn't feel too tedious either. Again, the only thing is like, that you have to manage a bit of threat with a killer bow, steel bow, but usually if you let's say you have a really good Ike that's really tanky in an Oscar, just stick those 2 up there. Plus 30 avoid, they're going to be fine. If you don't have a good Ike, maybe you got defense screwed, you know, there's like 11 defense. Titania Oscar, put, you know, Knight's Guard on Oscar, or Titania whoever's lower defense, probably Titania actually. And then sort of manage threat by putting a hand axe on the swishier one so that, you know, the bow doesn't attack them. Then you're perfectly fine. Like, it's very manageable. You do have to think about it, you have to do some preparation, but there's a lot to do, but it's all very easy. If you know what you're doing, there's really not much stress, there isn't that much BS. So, complexity, I'd say it's at least a 3 though. There is a lot to do. BS though is like a 2. It's very realistic to get those chests from the thieves. Like, you have enough time for sure. There's one killer bow guy, he's not that menacing if you know what to deal, like, you know how to deal with them. You have Kanto units there. And then the reinforcements that keep coming from the bottom, it really is just Tower of Olney mode. You're just killing them for XP. They move only 6 move. They don't have javelins, they have Steel Lance, Iron Lance, so they're very reasonable. So yeah, I'd say this might be, it's either bottom of C or top of D, actually. I'll put it bottom of C. Yeah, probably using this one even. Probably easier. It's a really good training map for your units. It's sort of a fun map, maybe. Maybe I have to think about it. There's a lot you're doing. It's all easy to do, but there's a lot you're doing. So, yeah, bottom of C it goes. Okay, on to Chapter 17, Part 1. Is it called Serene's Forest? I believe that's called Serene Forest, but whatever. Chapter 17, Part 1. All 4 parts are pretty manageable. Like, they can be scary. Like, especially I'd say Part 3 is pretty scary. Part 4 is also really scary if your units aren't very good. Yeah, Part 4 is actually really scary if you have weak units. But assuming you don't, it's not that bad. So, but anyways, we're talking Part 1. Part 1 isn't too bad. I'd say that it's a little bit sleeper hard because there's a few things you have to deal with. So number 1, you're probably training units on these maps. You're using Chapter 17, Part 1 through 4 to train, you know, maybe Astrid, maybe Makalov, maybe Godfrey, maybe Braum, who knows? Maybe Zerark still, probably not. Whoever the game is so versatile, who knows what you're doing at this point. But you're probably training at least a few units here. So you have some weaker units you have to worry about. But not only you're worrying about them, you're trying to get them involved. This map, it's kind of difficult to do both things at the same time. Just the layout of it, like, if you're putting a unit in range to get involved, they're probably in range to get attacked by a few other units because of the way they come out. So it's a little bit of a weird map, especially because you also, you know, those 4 spaces, whatever you want to call them, that take away move. Like, that also makes it difficult to sort of maneuver around and interact and then run. Like, it's a little bit weird. So for that reason, this map isn't that easy to sort of train your units on and keep them safe, but both things are manageable. It's easy enough to keep them safe, there is just those reinforcements that come from the south, the Swordmaster and the Myrmidons. The Swordmaster, I believe, is a killing edge, and he's very scary. You hopefully have a unit that can easily deal with him while not needing to carry the units in the north. But I'd say at this point in the game, it's pretty reasonable that you can deal with everything. But yeah, watch out for Swordmaster of the South that comes comes earlier than you think. Oh, it's a funny thing. It actually tries to troll you. The ambush spawn, or what you want to call it, like the Swordmaster, it's not ambush spawn, but it feels like an ambush spawn. They come out on your turn, but they don't have it has a very subtle animation. It has like a noise, doesn't pan the camera to them, so you just kind of have to listen to it and know that they arrived. If you don't, let's say you don't hear it, don't even think about it, let's say you're playing an emulator and you're fast forwarding, you can easily not realize that a Swordmaster with a killer edge is right behind your level 7 Astrid, and then, bink, she's gone, right? Like, it's a little bit BS. So that's definitely part of the BS meter. And if you know about it, it's part of the complexity meter, right? You have to understand that those are coming out to make sure that your units are sort of in the east area, away from the southwest, and dealing with the units that are coming at you fast enough, which is not too difficult to do if you know what you're doing. So yeah, all things said and done, where does it fall in BS? Well, I'll say it's a 4, maybe a 5, because that ambush thing is annoying, but it's sort of just a pseudo ambush spawn. So I'll say it's a 4. Complexity like a 3 or 4. I'll say a 3. It could even be a 2. It's not very complex. I'll say a 3 at most. Complexity 3 or 4. I'll say a 4. It's definitely a C tier map. We'll put it to easier than these two. Easier than this one. Harder than Chapter 9. Yeah. So above Chapter 9, below Chapter 7. Put it there for now. Okay, Part 2. Part 2 is way easier than Part 1, Part 3, Part 4. Part 2 is the easiest. Now, maybe a naive approach can make this not the case if you don't block off the Cavaliers and Paladins coming at you with your 2 strong units, but it's pretty obvious that you do that, and there's actually a few ways to block them off anyways, and they're not that menacing. There's just a Paladin with a short spear. So, yeah, not too difficult to deal with. There's really no BS on this map. There's no weird reinforcements. There's no difficult things to deal with. There's a few Wyverns, but they have 7 speed, and they're there. They don't just show up. And the other thing is, if you've leveled up a Jill or Marcia, you can just skip this map basically. You can just 3 turns arrive. It's very easy. Now you probably want to get the XP. The bonus XP is probably not worth it in Maniac mode. And is there a physics staff on this one? I think there is a physics staff on this one that you steal, yeah. So that's another reason to stick around and sort of clear all the enemies. You get the physics staff of Volk. So this is a pure training map, in my opinion. Kill the enemies, you get XP, you get a physics staff, you take your time. You can easily choose who kills what, actually, because of just the type of enemies you're dealing with and the formation and the orientation of the map. The only thing I'd say is when you're going up to the rise space, a little bit more difficult because your movement's kind of hindered. But yeah, overall, very easy map. Not complex, not BS. So complexity, I'd say is BS I'll say is a 1. Complexity is either a 1 or a 2. I'd say this is F tier, by the way. It's either the easiest map or second easiest. I'll say complexity is a 2. Is it more or less complex in this one? Can I really say it's more complex than Chapter 15? I don't think I can. I think I had to say this is a 1, this is a 1 as well. So this is a 1-1. So yeah, maybe I'm wondering, I feel bad if you approach this naively, maybe it doesn't feel like this at all, maybe it's there's a huge Paladin here. What do you mean? But yeah, if you're playing Maniac mode, I think most people play Maniac mode, it will feel very easy. So I'm going to put this as second easiest. I think this one's still slightly easier. I know your movement's hindered. I know the Lagoos, you can't really measure out their move like you'd like to. They have Lagoo stones, but I still think it's easier than this one because enemies are just less threatening. They are just sitting there waiting for you. Enemies are at least coming at you here, right? So yeah, this is F tier, second easiest map so far. Okay. 17 part 3, can't speak, getting lightheaded again, but 17 part 3 is definitely the hardest so far of these 17 maps, these chapter 17 parts. Yeah, this map is difficult, so there's a few things you want to do to prepare for this map. You want to probably have a Sage Sorin that takes 0 damage from the Sages on the east side, and you want them to deal with the Sages and Mages coming out and the Myrmidons, which is difficult if you have a low speed Sorin, so you really have to think about your spaces and where you're moving. But if you don't have a Sage or someone to deal with high resistance to deal with those units, it becomes very difficult, because now you're getting attacked by 3 different angles, which is annoying. So there's those things to deal with on the east side. The south side's hard. You do have like a turn to sort of prepare for that. But it's a lot of mixed damage of magic and, Myrmidons, whatever. But then the start position, you have a lot of units to kill. You have mages, you have Myrmidons, and you have soldiers. I think that's it. But at this point in the game, you really have to optimize your damage output to deal with all of them. Yeah, and you usually are going to have to move your units that you want to defend the south up to attack the starting units. And then they sort of canto back if they can, if they're canto units or not. And you sort of have to rush to get back down to the south with them. So a lot of things to deal with. Dealing with the starting units is not trivial. Dealing with the Sages and Mages is not trivial, with even if you have a Sage Sorin. And then you have to get down to the south area. You probably want to use Barrier or Pure Waters to make sure the Mages aren't doing too much damage. Fortunately, after the first few turns are over, it's not too bad. The only thing I'll say is, there's snipers, and it's kind of tricky to know if they're going to be able to hit you. Even when you click on them and it shows the range isn't going to hit you, it can be tricky because you don't know if a unit's blocking them off, It's hard to trust all the time. So there's that factor. So yeah, overall, forgot to mention, this is the first chapter Ike is carrying the other Heron, I don't know what her name is, Leanne. So yeah, Ike is kind of useless. Well, that's actually not true at all. He's useful because he gives Oscar plus 30 to Void, so you usually want to keep him within 3 spaces in a safe area. And he can do good chip damage still. He's probably good enough to be fine attacking anyone at this point. It's just, yeah, you don't want him to be enemy phasing. So fine for chip damage, great for Oscar support, but other than that, he's sort of a stone you have to sort of carry around. So, or maybe a boulder is better description. So anyways, where does this go? Complexity. It's complex. First turn is not an easy turn. You have to think about it. So complexity is at least a 5. I'll say the only thing is after the first turn or two, it's very simple. So I'll say it's a 5 because it does get really, really simple. And BS, there is some BS in this one. So I'll say BS is like 4. Could even be a 5. So where does that make it end up landing? It's either bottom of B or top of C. I'll put this one... Tough. There's a lot of C tier maps. I'm tempted to put in B tier just to, fill out the other tiers. But can I really say it's B tier? Sure. I'll say it's B tier. Okay. This one, it's probably C tier. I'm probably just trying to fill in the gaps here. If they were both even, I'd probably put C tier. I'm sorry, I can't help my bias right now. It feels like a B tier, though. Like, the fear you feel on this map is B tier level fear. I don't feel that same fear on C level maps. I don't. So, I'm putting this bottom of B, but you can definitely argue it for C. Okay. Now, part 4. I would say part 4 is harder than part 3, because it's harder throughout, and there's more preparation you need. There's slightly, maybe not more preparation, but there is preparation you need, and there's other things you have to deal with throughout the entire map, not just the first 2 turns. Even though the first 2 turns or 3 turns, maybe 3 or 4 turns actually, are pretty difficult. Because, 1, you don't get to adjust your formation, and you have a meteor guy just blasting you, every damn turn, for 5 turns. You have a Falcon Knight that's just watching. You have 2 of them actually. One in the northwest corner that you want to deal with. And then you have a bunch of Paladins that are going to be coming up to you. You have a Sword Master you have to deal with. You have a lot of things you have to deal with. So, if you deal with this chapter naively and just start going out and running rampant and attacking units, it's probably not going to go well for you. You know, you're probably going to have a unit you didn't want to get attacked. You know, it's going to be bad. So this is a map where you definitely build walls, and then you sort of go from there. Like, you build a wall at the beginning around that sort of tree trunk, sort of a diagonal wall. You sort of try to bait out the meteor or the high resistance enemy or ally to sort of get all 5 uses out, and then you sort of bait out the Pegasus Knight or the Falcon Knight top left so that you get rid of it, right? It's going to be annoying to deal with when the reinforcements come later in the northwest corner. So, yeah, first 3 turns are kind of rough. You have to know what you're doing. And you know you're dealing with some tough units. You're dealing with Paladins at this point, and none of your units really kill Paladins one round. That's for damn sure. Like, maybe if you leveled up a Z-Hark and he has... even if you level Z-Hark, there's no effective weapons at this point you could be using with him. Can't use a Regal Sword, right? So even like a good Swordmaster, even a good Stefan, I guess Vague Caudy can deal with them. You get a crit, but yeah, your units are probably not good enough to one-round Paladins, so you're going to have to build a wall, deal with them 1 turn on enemy phase, then try to kill them again, then deal with them again, and yada yada yada. Like, there's a lot of things to deal with, the tough enemies, and then the reinforcements you have to deal with. There's more Paladins to come, there's like 4 of them you have to be ready for. And there's an invisible line that once you cross, there are enemies that will spawn, maybe not the same turn, but eventually from the northwest, a Paladin, 3 Cavaliers, which you're already dealing with things in the south, now you deal with things in the north, and your team is usually is barely good enough to deal with all of it, you know? So yeah, there's complexity, there's BS, not too much BS, but there is BS, there's preparation you need, and then let's talk about Oliver. Oliver is really annoying to deal with. The green units are also annoying to deal with. You don't have to save them, by the way. If they die, they don't actually die. But you probably want to rescue them so they don't steal your XP. They don't steal your Adept Scroll, which I never get the damn Adept Scroll ever. I always loot it because, you know, Tibarn kills that sniper. And then Oliver is annoying to deal with. So, you know, because he has Nosferatu. So he just keeps healing himself. So, yeah. I will say late game, though, you are just kind of, you know, getting XP, trying to kill Oliver with someone that gets XP without, you know, just stalling it out. So late game isn't too bad. Early mid game are pretty hard though. So a lot of talking there. So complexity 6, BS 4, ends up at 10. I'd say right above part 3, right here. All right, we're over halfway there. We're getting there. Ike is just promoted. So you think, okay, this is great. The game is going to get easier here, right? And generally it does on easier modes. Like this chapter 18 we're about to talk about, generally it's pretty fun when you're a kid and you're playing medium and you're just like, oh my god, my Ike looks so cool. He's wearing blue now. Why is he wearing blue? Why is he wearing green and blue? It's awesome. And he has Ether if you got a Cult Scroll. Wow. And you get Tanith, Rayson, Ulaki, Janeth. But there are some things that make this map not fun and very BS. On Maniac mode, probably hard mode as well. I don't remember hard mode that much, but I do think it's still hard mode. Which is the long range tomes. So this map, you are going through these narrow corridors, zigging and zagging, and there are like, I don't know, 5 long range tome guys, so it's like 25 uses total. And then I'm doing a Deathless Iron Man right now, so that means I have to recruit everyone and make sure no one dies. You have to recruit Shinon on this map with Rolf. So you have to somehow talk to Shinon with Rolf, then kill Shinon with Ike, and then save Rolf from the long-range tomes and whoever else in these narrow corridors where, you know, a lot of things are happening. This all sounds fine. It's like, well, why don't you just wait out the long-range tomes? Well, good question. There are some birds that are coming from the north that are trying to steal those chests, and you want those chests. It has a resolve and something else good, I think, but has a resolve scroll at least, and you definitely want the resolve scroll for endgame. I usually like putting Wrath Resolve on someone. Nazir is a good target, but there are other good targets, I'd say. Either way, so yeah, you want to get those chests, so you can't really stall. You still have to be moving, so you have to be moving, you have to be baiting, and you have to be surviving. So a lot going on. Luckily, you get Tanith, which without Tanith, this chapter would be, I don't even know, hell. Hell, yeah. So you want to use Tanith's yellow units, partner units, to sort of bait out the enemies, bait out the range tomes as much as possible. And from there, hopefully you're moving fast enough, hopefully you're moving smart enough throughout the corridors to get Shinon, save Rolf, and then go from there, get the chests, and then the chapter still isn't that easy at that point because there's probably still a few, stages you have to worry about. But once you get Shinon, you kind of can take a breath, I'd say, because now you can actually just bait out people. Well, assuming you get the chest, you can actually just bait out people. The tomes, I mean. So yeah, there's more I could say about this map, but I won't at this point. I'd say BS is very high on this map. Complexity isn't that high. It's very simple what you have to do. Although there is one moment where the complexity does raise. By the way, I've done I don't want to give too much history of myself, but my last Maniac mode Iron Man on this, I lost one unit. It was Rolf. It was Rolf trying to get Shinon. I moved Rolf to a bad space and he got halberdeered in the face, So yeah, that's the part where the complexity comes in, where you really need to read ahead and figure out where your units are going to land, considering your blessing or whatever you call it with Galdering, with Racing to get your units moving again. You have to read ahead for all those things to make sure that you are safe in the corridors from long-range tomes and whatever other enemies, right? So that part is complex. You have to read ahead. But other than that, it's not very complex. You just kill the units, stay out of the range of long-range tomes, get your partner units involved. Try not to lose track of what your partner units are doing, which, by the way, is how the Rolf died. I had a partner unit. I didn't realize it was going to move. It moved, and then it let Halberdier attack. So, yeah. All that being said, where does it land? BS. This might be a 10. Is it a 10? It's not a 10. It's not a 10. It's a 9. 9 BS. It's very BS. Complexity, it's like a 4 or 5. I'll say it's a 4. It's a 5. I don't think one turn is enough to be a 5, but that turn is a bit difficult to deal with. But 4, yeah. So 4 complexity, 9 BS, 13 total. So it's definitely B tier at least. I would say because of the BS factor, it might even be A tier, but I'll put top of B for now. It could be A tier though. You know what? First A tier. This is a hot take. I think most people don't even think of this map as difficult. They're usually just excited about it. But you know what? It's hard because I'm sort of thinking of this as a deathless Iron Man flavor, which is like, yeah, getting Shinon makes this map a whole lot harder. If you're just here to kill Shinon, or you don't care for the chests, then sure. It can even go down way lower because you just wait, right? But if you're trying to do everything, get Shinon, get the chests, save Rolf, save the world, it's A tier. So yeah, first A tier, there we are. Now, chapter 19. Another map where there's a lot to talk about. This is a map that is all about preparation. It's all about preparation. This map, you have Nazala to deal with, and you have his bird friends to deal with, and you have ballistas to deal with. So now, the thing with this map is you really want to get the Night Ring. Night Ring will make the rest of the game so much easier if you put on Ike. So generally, I'll just say my strategy real quick. I put the Night Ring on Ike, I put boots on Ike, he ends up being a paladin, okay? With Ether and 30 Avoid with Oscar, and then their Frodo, Sam, Wise Gamgee just going to Mordor, like they're just buddies and killing everything together. That's a great strat. It makes the late game way easier, but you do want the Night Ring. Like, if you don't have the Night Ring, can't do that as effectively. You can still do it, but it's slower, it's not as easy. Endgame becomes a lot harder on Ike without the Night Ring, because Ike is the only one that deals with Ashnard. Don't have the Night Ring, oh my god, you're going to be elixir in place? Like, holy crap, So, a lot to talk about here, but you want the Night Ring. What does that mean? Preparation, you need to get Nazal to talk to Racing, you need JNF to survive, and you need to not kill the birds. There's a few things you need to do. Guess I won't make a guide right now, just really quick. JNF Full Guard, JNF Pure Water, shove or Galder, whatever you call it, JNF, so he moves up to an area where he's in range of Nazala. Pure Water on him, Full Guard on him, tank the Wyverns, the Ballistas. Nazala will attack, do like almost no damage, but doubles him. JNF talks to Nazala next turn, and then you just basically, Nazala will no longer aggro your units, but you still don't want the birds to aggro units, so stay out of those range. And then Nazala's going to come down and talk to Racing, so make sure Racing's safe. And then once he talks to Racing, you get the Knight's Ring, and you're all good. The birds leave, Perfume will probably die, and then you get bonus XP. The rest of the map's easy. One thing I didn't mention, by the way, to keep the birds from killing you or attacking, on the right side, get a flyer like Tanith and just unequip her, and let the birds attack her. That's what you do. So, very quick strategy right there. But that's the map. The map is the preparation, and that's it. The rest of the map is very easy. The units are pretty easy to kill. Even though it looks scarier than most units you've seen at this point. You got ballistas, you got wyvern riders or lords, you got berserkers, you got, I think you got a few swordmasters, maybe paladins. Your units are strong at this point, so it's not really difficult to deal with. I don't think you have too many. I think there's one killer weapon you have to deal with, but yeah, again, I think it's on a Myrmidon even. But yeah, so that being said, BS and complexity is hard to talk about when it comes to a pure preparation map like this. Like, I guess you don't prepare, this map becomes pretty difficult because you're dealing in Azola. I don't know what you do at that point. I haven't done that in a long time. But if you're not dealing in Azola, let's just rate on that. I'd say it's a scary map. It's a scary map. If you mess up once, you mess up the whole thing. So BS is like a 6, complexity is like a 5. So I'm putting this top of B, above Blood Runs Red. Yeah, not A tier, but I think the preparation alone, like, sure, I just gave you the cliff notes. You can probably do it now. It's fine. But it took me a minute to figure it out, trial and error. Like, I didn't realize until recently, by the way, that you don't need Nizala to talk to Raisin insta. I thought that Nizala would attack your other units if Raisin isn't in range. I was wrong about that. So I was having Raisin taking like one attack each time. So that was really bad. So yeah, trial and error on this one to even get it to even B tier. Before it was like here for me. This is my scariest map. But yeah, now top of B. Okay. Chapter 20. So chapter 20, I think, is an easy map. My friend Typhoon dies on the map sometimes because he forgets that you have to arrive in like 15 turns. Or sees whatever it is, or else you just lose. And actually, at one run, he talked to that boss of Jill, which is actually her dad, and he lost his best unit. So, there's a few things to deal with on this map when it comes to like BS, but yeah, it's a pretty reasonable map. It's like the top, or I guess the center north isn't too bad to deal with the wyverns and the, I don't even remember what units are there, halberdiers. They're not too bad to deal with at this point. Your units are probably strong enough to deal with them. And then the north or the south area is pretty easy to deal with your Ike, Oscar, or however your strongest units are. Pretty easy. So this is a map where it's like you kind of finally get to feel the power of your units without a bunch of BS to deal with. Even the long-range tomes aren't that hard to deal with. The way that they're oriented is pretty reasonable. It's not like, I have to deal with long-range tomes, I have to wait here. Not really. Like, it's perfectly fine. So, yeah, this map, BS is like a 2 or 3, just because, I'll say it's a 2. It's a 2 just because of the Jill thing, and if you're playing on Japanese mode, the first option is talk. So if you're trying to, a lot of people play Jill, a lot of people try to kill the boss of Jill, and a lot of people spam, so a lot of people end up losing Jill. Not a lot, but a non-zero amount, So just because that gets an extra point at BS, other than that, it's not that BS. And complexity is pretty low as well. It's like a 2 complexity. So I'll say it's like a 2-2. This is like a late game D tier level. Top of D, I'd say. Could be bottom of C, but I'll say top of D. This map really gives me no trouble. I never worry about it. I never have any close calls. Maybe bottom of C. We'll put top of D for now. Okay, chapter 21. Okay, this map is not top of D, not bottom of C. This map is annoying, okay? So it's another BS map on Maniac mode, because you got a bunch of long-range tomes, and now, for the first time, you got sleep staffs to deal with. Sleep staffs to deal with, you got a big map, you got Thief to deal with, a Thief, and then you have a lot of reinforcements that are pretty tough. So yeah, it's a hard map, it's a long map, it's a BS map, it's a lot going on here. So let's talk about it a little bit. So you got the meteor guy and the bolting guy, and actually there's multiple guys when I think about it. You want to bait those out with the yellow units, and then you get the sleep staffs. You want to bait out with yellow units. Now, even with the plus 30 avoid, I believe I'm like 99% sure, maybe 92% sure. Okay, I'm not gonna say 99. The sleep is based on your resistance, not your avoid. So I don't think the support really helps you against the sleep stabs. So generally, one of Ike or Oscar are going to have low resistance. So it's like, it's not easy to bait that sleep staff guy out and safely, because again, there's long range tomes. So you get slept, you get a long range tome to the face, you lose your best unit in the game, or you just game over, right? If it's Iron Man, this could be the end of your run. So they're pretty annoying to deal with. You want the sleep staffs on the yellow units, so you want them to sort of survive the onslaught of the long range tomes. But you also want to be moving fast enough to sort of get to the chest up top. I don't remember exactly what you have to do. Like, I don't know if you need to open the doors to make sure the thieves on the bottom don't leave. The only thing is, the thief on the bottom, he gets a Master Seal and a Brave Sword. You're probably not getting a Brave Sword because he gets both. And that Master Seal isn't really important at this point. So if you lose both, okay, you know. So I don't think you have to rush as much as I usually rush. I think you can kind of take it slowly and steadily and keep it safe. But still pretty difficult. The units aren't necessarily hard. It's just the long range tomes, sleep stabs. The reinforcements are pretty difficult. And there's a lot to do. So, okay, I'm not going to give a whole strategy guide on this one. There's a lot to talk about. So, oh, there's also Tyranio, but he's pretty easy to recruit. So, yeah, I'll give this one BS a 7, I'd say. Maybe even an 8. Complexity like a 5. So this is an 8 here difficulty for me. Probably above chapter 18. Hard to say. It's less BS in chapter 18, and the Shinan thing is less difficult to deal with. I'll say it's below chapter 18. Actually, no. Okay, for Deathless, it's below chapter 18, but for non-Deathless runs, which most of you are doing Deathless, most of you don't even like Shinan anyways, probably like seeing him die, solo, chapter 21 is harder. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, I need to clear my throat, so give me a minute. Okay, we're getting to the end. So, chapter 22, okay, this is a funny thing. I've not played this map in a long time. I don't want to say years, I'll say years. Because this is the map I skip. I skip this map by using long range tomes to kill the boss. And I advise all of you to do the same. So the preparation actually comes throughout the entire game to do that. You want to make sure that Soren has weapon rank on Bolting Meteor. You have Khalil as well. You have Racing in this map. You have Stefan support for accuracy. You have Ike support for... I don't know which one is accuracy, to be honest, but you want support. And then you want Soren to be high enough level and high enough stats, have good skill, good magic, and hopefully you get a depth proc, and it's just simple and trivial, and you kill a boss. Now, why might you ask you do this? Because you do get bonus XP from the priests that you save. If you're not familiar with this map, there's a bunch of priests, and you save them. You don't want to kill them, but they're enemies, and you don't kill them, you get bonus XP. The main thing, though, is if you don't kill any of the priests, which is hard to do if you play this map normally. I don't even know. I'm sure it's possible, but you have to, like, shove them and be very careful. I don't know. Like, I haven't done it in a while. It's feels impossible. I might be overthinking it, though. If you kill them, you don't get the Asher Staff. The Asher Staff is so vital. It is so important for some of the late game maps. It's so important because it's 3 uses. If you don't know what the Asher Staff does, it heals and it restores your entire team. So not only does it heal your entire team to full health, if you have someone sleep staffed, it will unsleep them. It will put them back to normal condition. So that is huge for, well, we'll talk about Clash in a minute. But so it's very important that you have the Asher Staff, and you get a Hammer as well, I think right after this map. And so if you use the Hammer, you have 3 uses of the Hammer. So because that you get 3, use Hammer, now you have 6, use 2, use the Hammer, back up to 3. You get another 2, so now you've used it 4 times, back up to 3, so now you use it 2 times, now you got 6, use a Hammer, so now you get 3 uses, so you get 9 uses of the Asher Staff, if I do that right. So what I'm saying, if you didn't follow that, if you use the Hammer all 3 times, the Asher Staff, so you use the Asher Staff twice, Hammer, Asher Staff twice, Hammer, Asher Staff twice, Hammer, that's 6, and then you get an extra 3 in the last one, so you get 9 uses of the Asher Staff. 9 times you heal your entire squad, relieve them of conditions. It's amazing. Okay, it seems like I talked a lot about the Asher Staff rather than chapter 22. Again, that's all I really care about this map. Use your bolting, use your meteor, use racing, kill the boss, the Soren. Hopefully your skill's high enough, hopefully your magic is high enough, maybe you get adept, maybe use Khalil. I don't even think you need to do a turn 1 if you're, really prepared. Once you do that, yeah, you get the Astral Staff. You get some bonus XP. It's probably not worth it for bonus XP. You probably get more just killing the enemies and the bishops. But, and there's the other thing, you are losing out on chests with this strategy. There's probably a way to get both best of both worlds, which I haven't done. I mean, there is a way. I just haven't done it. But, yeah, so it's a trade-off. I think it's worth it. Astral Staff is best weapon in the game, best item in the game. So, okay. That's chapter 22. So, for me, this is here. Like, this is like easy map. You just kill the boss, turn 1, So, where do I really want to put, though? Because you miss, you have to deal with some things. I'm just going to keep it here as sort of a statement, to tell you guys what you should do is make this map as easy as possible. Because, if you prepare for it, it can be as easy as possible. The only thing I'll say is maybe you miss, and maybe now you're in an emergency situation. But I think you prepare for that fine. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So it could go here, I guess, but I'll put it here for now. Okay. Chapter 23. This map is so easy. It's funny because I think a lot of people hate this map and think it's very hard or very annoying on lower difficulties because of the pitfalls. But yeah, like the enemies don't do much to you. If you have Oscar Ike support, it's off to see the wizard with them. They're just running out, falling together, getting back up together, killing everything, dodging everything, running up to Petrine, going to kill her, and that's it. It's like you're just running around zigzagging. It's fun though, but or maybe it's not fun. I don't know. The map plays itself. I'll say that much. This is also assuming you have a support, ether, soul. There's no problem. Most units will have 0 hit on your guys or less than 30. So yeah, this map's very simple. I guess if you have a naive approach, it's not as simple, but still not bad. There's not that many long-range Atonement. I think it's like 1 or 2 long-range Atonement guys, so it's not even bad. Ballistas or whatever, just keep your flyers out of there. You do get hard on this map, so you have to keep people back there, and the reinforcements are actually no joke. That's the only thing that's hard with this map. The reinforcements that come, if you're going on the Fellowship with Oscar and Ike or whoever that's your best units, your other units are going to have to deal with some Wyverns, Swordmasters, and Paladins, and they are no joke, I'd say. If your units are weak, you may actually fail to kill them and get enemy phased and lose some units here. It can be really bad. You also have to bring Jill, and if you're not using Jill, okay, maybe this doesn't apply to most of you. Most of you guys love Jill, so I love Jill, but if you're not using Jill, now you have an extra deployment spot. I can't speak. This tier is going on for too long. Extra deployment spot dedicated to a worthless unit that's just there to talk to Har, and yeah, now you have even less power to deal with reinforcements. So that's the only thing that's difficult. You have to think about it. I'd say it just goes to complexity though, not BS. So yeah. Oh, I didn't even talk about BS complexity of chapter 22. 1-1, right? It's the bottom of F. So okay. Chapter 23 though. So complexity, it's like 1 or 2. I'll say it's 2, I guess, because the reinforcements, you have to know that you have to make sure you manage your attacks and be efficient with your attack output or power output. But BS is pretty low. The pitfalls don't really bother you at this point. And if you're playing Maniac mode, you're good enough to get to this point. So BS is also a 2. So it's F tier in terms of difficulty. Is it harder than any? Actually, I'll put it here. Maybe I put it here. I guess you can get lucky. Man, I usually think this is the easiest map, to be honest. That's the only thing. I'm putting it here. I'm actually bring it down. Complexity 1, BS. It's like a 2 for some players, but for me it feels like a 1. It just feels like I'm too strong to bother anything. Watch me in my current run just die on this map and eat my words, but I've never struggled this map. So for me, this is second easiest in the game. Probably easiest if you don't count chapter 22, because chapter 22 has an asterisk near it because we are skipping it. So okay. Okay, chapter 24. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to some hard maps. Chapter 24 is one of the hardest maps if you don't have Asher Staff and you don't have a flyer. Okay? Because you're trying to save Joffrey, you're trying to get up there, and you have no way to heal your Joffrey guy or your green units, and you have no way to get there fast. So it's very difficult. You have starting units that are hard to deal with. You have a west gate or west bridge that is full of enemies and wyverns. You have a north gate, or keep saying gate, north bridge that has a savior house that has a bunch of berserkers. Sorry, I kept calling berserker or fighters berserkers earlier. These are real berserkers. You have real berserkers with killer axes here. You have more wyverns. So now you have trouble weapon triangle north. So you have a lot of things to deal with, and you have a lot of enemies to sift through. So even though Ike and Oscar are probably fine, like mowing through enemies, you're probably not killing them all. You're probably not killing them all in a fast way to get up to Joffrey in a fast way without using Asher Staff, or at least without stressing out. So yeah, it's a hard map. There's a lot to deal with, a lot to think about. You really have to prepare ahead of time. Oh, did I mention the Black Knight comes out? Yeah, Black Knight comes out, and there's wyverns that come out, reinforcements from the starting area. So, oh, and you have Alencia to protect. Forgot about that part. Yeah, now you have forced deploy Alencia, who I'm not gonna say is worthless. I mean, she heals. You're also forced deployed Bastion and Lucia. Bastion can kill some wyverns, or at least damage them. That's nice. But Lucia is worthless. At least she comes to Lagu's Guard. So, yeah, this map is extremely difficult. I'd say BS is pretty high, because I'd consider just a surplus of enemies you have to mow through. They're just blockading you without thought. I'd say that falls into BS category. There's nothing you can do besides equip correct weapons, forge, prepare, attack in the correct order, get ethers, whatever. It depends on your units, right? But so the BS is like, I don't know, 7 or 8. I'll say 7 because there's not that many long-range tomes. There isn't a sleep staff guy, so there's at least that. But there's so much to deal with. Then complexity is also like a 7 because you are doing a lot of different things. You are preparing, you are thinking, and you are stressing. So 7-7. This is an A tier difficulty map, probably here. And I don't want to do this. I might have to bring down chapter 13 because I think this map is probably harder than chapter 13. Fair enough. Let me think. They're very similar. Maybe this also just goes in S tier though. Yeah, I'm putting this S tier actually, because this is only A tier if you have like a really good Jill or Marcia. I'd say. Otherwise, it's probably S tier because it is difficult to get up to Joffrey and save him. And it probably is harder than chapter 13. So I'm putting this hardest map so far, chapter 24, Battle Reunion. Very hard, BS, and complex. Okay. We're getting close to the end. Chapter 25. Chapter 25, you got the boulders coming at you, you got the boss flying around with resolve. It's pretty annoying. This is a map where you also prepare. You probably want to kill the boss turn 2 with your long-range tomes. This is where you want to make sure they're saved up here. And you probably want to work around the resolve so you don't try to kill him last hit when he's resolve range or he's below half health. Otherwise, he's probably going to dodge it. It's going to be annoying. And then now you have a flyer that's in range of all your guys. So pretty annoying to deal with the boss. You want to bait him with the yellow units. You want to attack him with your long-range tomes. And now you have the trouble, planning out how to avoid the boulders. They do a flat 10 damage, a constant 10 damage. That is very annoying. You have a Racing that's like 21 health maybe. You have some healers that are like also in the 20s. You got a lot of things to deal with here. A lot of BS to deal with. Now, the map itself is easy. Go up the mountain, kill the guys, But you just have to avoid the boulders, try to kill the boss. Hopefully you kill him. Hopefully you hit him. And that's it, So this is an easy map in terms of complexity, but BS is through the roof. So, yeah. Complexity, I'll say is a 4. Maybe even a 3, but I'll say a 4. And then BS is like an 8. It's pretty BS. So it's going to be a B tier map. Maybe it's inconsistent. I don't think it is, though. I'll put it above Blood Runs Red. Yeah. Put it above Blood Runs Red, Chapter 11, and below Chapter 19 for now. I think that's where I want it. Yeah. Okay. Taking a mini break before we talk about arguably the hardest map in the game. Okay, here we are. Chapter 26, Clash. Arguably most difficult map in the game. I probably think it's second most difficult, but it's like the same level. I can't tell. It's hard to say sometimes. This map is pretty low in complexity, actually. Like, what you have to do is pretty simple. Actually, I'm going to scratch that. It depends on how much you're trying to minimize the BS. If you're really working to minimize the BS, which on my last Iron Main run, I did, the complexity goes through the roof because you really have to strategize on how you're using your units. So last time I played this map, I sort of had this 2 duos going out and sort of splitting aggro, and then having my best duo being Ike and Oscar sort of merge into the other duo and take their aggro, and then the other 2 units come down and take the units that are already kind of dead on the bottom. And that was sort of my strategy. And then from there, you're sort of trading weapons to your Ike and Oscar to have more weapon durability because there's so many damn enemies. And then you're slowly moving your units up to the northeast to sort of take care of the sleep staff guy and be arranged to heal Ike, I guess. No, not really. You're more arranged to just kill the sleep staff guy with a flyer. That was my plan last time. However, I have a different strategy now, which is way less complex. So I'm not going to talk about that right now, but basically, okay, I'll talk about it. Basically, just kill the guys with 2 different duos instead of like using one super duo. Either way, though, I'm not talking about strategy here, I guess. This map is so BS. It is so BS. It's a 10 out of 10 on BS. Okay, you start off with a bunch of enemies, and then there comes a bunch of enemies from every single different angle, right? A bunch of wyverns, a bunch of paladins, and you literally have to manage your weapons to get through this map. You can literally run out of, actually, not you can, you probably will run out of durability on all your weapons with Ike and Oscar if you're not thinking about durability, okay? Because you have so many, I don't remember the exact number of enemies. I feel like it's in the hundreds, like it's 100 like something. Maybe it's not, but I think it's in the hundreds total enemies. If you get every single reinforcement, they're all pretty tanky, they're all pretty strong. Luckily, Ike and Oscar don't really have much risk of dying, to be honest. But, you know, if you run out of durability and you lose all your weapons, what the hell are you going to do? You know? So there are some really crazy situations you run into on Clash if things don't go well. Because of weapon durability, because there's so many enemies. There's so many enemies. The BS is all in the amount of enemies. Now, the other thing is there are long-range tomes, and they do destroy your other units, you know? So, and your other units, they can't just hide behind Ike and Oscar because there's, you know, multiple different angles you have to survive from. So, you really have to manage where your units are going. You hopefully have another duo that's strong enough to deal with other units in the northeast area. I guess you can just say the north area, and you're kind of going northwest with your stronger duo. But either way, 2 many enemies to deal with. And then the cherry on top is a sleep staff guy. Once you get to Renault? No, not Renault, it's Sacred Stones guy. Whatever his name is, okay? The paladin with the rune sword. Once you get to him, Bertram, now you have a sleep staff guy that is just there to ruin your day. Luckily, the order, I don't know what the exact order, he'll probably sleep staff you with a turn to respond and react. So this is where the Asher Staff is so important. You're not likely going to be in range to Asher Staff your guy. The situation you're going to be in is you're going to have your guy asleep in front of the siege square, and then you're going to be surrounded by 40 paladins that will now kill you because you can't dodge them. I guess you have plus 30 avoid, so maybe you can't dodge them. I don't know. But and your units are not going to be in range to, you know, restore or rescue, whatever. I don't think you get a rescue staff at this point, but so what do you need? You need an Asher Staff to resolve or revive your stasis to normal. So yeah, sorry, I'm running out of energy. Long video, but yeah, you need the Asher Staff for this map if you want to consistently get through it. To deal with the Asher Staff, well, I won't say need. I haven't done every single strategy possible, obviously, but for my strategy, you do need it. And yeah, it's very BS. So BS 10 complexity, it's actually pretty simple of a map. Like, again, unless you have a bad units and you're doing some weird strategy, which I have done before, complexity can range from like 5 to 8 or 5 to 9 even. So it's pretty variable depending on your team, depending on what you plan on doing. I've seen, I have a friend named Typhoon who's played this map. When I watch him play it, complexity feels like a 10, the way he plays the map. It's kind of crazy. Usually his units die, so yeah, maybe you don't want the complexity 10 level strategy. If you're doing complexity 10, maybe your units are going to die. So I'd say ranges from 5 to 8. But based on that, I'll say it lands at like a 6 complexity, maybe a 7. 6, okay, not the meme, say 6 complexity, 10 BS. It ends up being the hardest map though. Even though it's not higher in terms of total score, I don't think, than Battle Reunion, the BS 10 outweighs whatever Battle Reunion was. So yeah, ends up being hardest map of the game so far. Okay, Chapter 27, easier than Chapter 26, but don't be fooled and take a deep breath here and be like, done with the hardest map of the game, time to relax and just fight the Black Knight and whatever. No. The beginning of this map is actually bonkers. Like, the beginning of this map, if you sleep on it, oh my god, goodbye. I remember even on hard mode, this map is hard. No pun intended, because when a long time ago I did Iron Man on hard mode, this is before I was getting into Maniac mode, and I think one of the only units I lost is on this map. I lost Boyd, because I just underestimated how powerful, like, the Siege Tome guys are. You got the generals to deal with, you got the fighters, not berserkers on the left side, you got the generals on the right side with sword masters, and they're all just there instantly. You have to deal with all of them, and you have nowhere to run. So if your units aren't strong, if they're not tanky, this map can be a huge problem. Oh yeah, there's also Laguz on the left side. Again, Siege Tomes, like I mentioned before, 3 of them. So yeah, the beginning of this map is not fun at all. Luckily, if you've played the game well at this point, you've managed units well, you have strong units that can deal with all 3 areas, or at least 2 areas, you can prepare for it and be fine. It's just the first, like, 3-4 turns. Oh, okay, there's one thing I forgot. The thieves. There's 3 of them. There's 3 thieves, and the reason why this map is actually really hard is because you want to get them before they open the doors. Now, maybe it's not that important to open the doors, or to keep the doors closed, but I think it is, because those doors reveal sleep staff bishops that will sleep staff you. And now it makes the game even harder, because now you have to maneuver around the beginning area, the middle area, and the late area with full visibility on your units, the sleep staff guys, and the ranged tome guys. So you want to get those thieves. You probably want to save some siege tomes for those guys with Soren, Khalil, to hopefully kill at least 2 of them, and then rush at least the last 1 or 2 with your other guys. So, okay, a lot to talk about here. If we were talking about strategy, I'm gonna stop there. So beginning is very BS and very difficult in high complexity. So up at the middle and the end of the game, or the late game, is sort of like, sort of turtling, sort of just sitting there waiting things out, going slowly, and it's pretty manageable. Black Knight fight's really easy if you have a good mist. Well, you can still always lose it if you get looted, a bunch of times and have to play conservative. But if you're getting average luck and a good Ike, you're probably okay. But if you're not, just take the Ina, So, okay. Complexity is like a 7, maybe lower. Let's do BS first. BS is like a 7. Could be an 8. I'll say 7. And then complexity is either a 6 or a 7. We'll say it's a 7. We'll say 7 here. And we'll say it is top of A. I don't know if those ratings work out, are consistent. I'm sorry if they're not. But right now, it feels like it's top of A. I still think Chapter 13 is fine where it is, to be honest. I think it probably is hard in Chapter 27 based on when it starts. Because, again, it's just 1 or 2 turns. I said 3 or 4. I guess 3 or 4 turns are hard. Maybe even less than that, though. So, yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, last 2 chapters. Twisted Tower. This chapter is not too bad. There is some BS. It's pretty boring. But as long as you turtle, which I advise you do in Maniac mode, because if you just run in, you're going to get long-range tomed, you're going to get annoyed, you're going to get ambushed, it's not going to be good. You're going to be fine, Ike has Ragnall, he's overpowered, he's fine, You have Tibarn, who's going to die probably, but that's fine, he doesn't really die. So, yeah, strategy is very simple. Get Tibarn to get as much sleep staff out of the bishops, get as much range tomes out of the sages and bishops, And then you got some dragons to deal with now. First time you see dragons, which are hard to deal with, but you know, you can deal with them at your own pace, so that's good. And you got Lagu's weapons from the chest in the last chapter, that's all good. So yeah, this chapter is not too bad. You just wait it out. But yeah, if you get crazy and you're like, oh, this is so fun, I just love killing everything in the Ragnall, this is where you can die. This is where you can get a little too greedy, a little too arrogant, I guess, with Ike and how good he is late game, super late game. So yeah, just turtle it, be careful, stay safe, and you'll be fine. Now, I'm not going to say it's F tier, I'm not going to say it's C tier, because there is a risk of dying. I do see people die in this chapter actually a lot more than I thought I would. And it is, yeah, it's a sleeper. It's slightly underrated in its difficulty. I still don't think it goes above C. I still don't think it goes above C. I still think it's probably, it's above training. It's probably top of C, I'll say. Could be a little lower because there isn't much complexity. So complexity I'd say is like 2, but BS is like 5 or 6. Let's say 5. I think based on that, that would be a little lower, huh? Complexity 2, BS 6. We'll say that. I think top of C probably works out. So yeah, for late game, this is pretty reasonable, or pretty easy to deal with. But okay. Finally, this list is coming to an end. We're talking about, I'm just going to put it where it belongs, hardest map of the game for me. Endgame, chapter 29, technically. My opinion, hardest map of the game, most BS map of the game. I'm already going to say complexity is, well, for Path of Radiance relative, 10/10s for BS complexity, okay? I'm just going to keep it as 10/10. Maybe BS is more of a 9, because there's no sleep staffs. Maybe complexity is more of a 9. It could be a 9/9 map. But it is the hardest map of the game. I'm going to keep it as 10/10 for now. Just keep things simple. Let's talk about the map, though. So, beginning is extremely hard. You got 2 sides to deal with. You got center, or you got 3 sides to deal with. You got center, you got left side, you got a right side. Okay, you got a ranged home guy. You got extremely difficult enemies from all 3 areas. You got dragons, and now you got an Ike that can't really bring Oscar along with him. If you want to be efficient with this map, if you want to really, be as safe as possible, because bring Oscar with Ike, they're going to target Oscar, and you're not going to be able to kill these enemies. And if you don't kill those enemies in the center, guess what? They're going to attack your units that are trying to stay safe at the back of the map, which they're not going to be able to. So there's a lot of things you have to deal with. It's hard to keep all your allies safe. It's really hard. There's nowhere to run. The enemies are coming at you fast. The right side is more manageable because they're slower, but they're stronger, probably. Like, they have this sniper with the dead shot that can just ruin your run. And you have huge generals that are hard to kill, so that you're going to be there for a while. And then both sides have reinforcements of wyverns, right? So just that initial onslaught before you even think about Ashnard as a concept is insane. So this is a map where if your units have not been leveled appropriately, if you do not have a good strategy, if you're not utilizing support bonuses, so this is where I would advise Ashen Makalov, Zeark Braum. That's a hot take, I think, the Zeark Braum thing, but there are support that you want to be dodge tanking on these maps. Now, you don't have to do Zeark Braum. I think Jill, if you get a blessed Jill or a good Jill, she's self-sufficient probably, but she's not going to be dodging much. And there are other units you can use. Obviously, Kieran's good. There are different strategies you can utilize. Especially if you did Kieran Oscar support instead of Ike Oscar support. Now that pays off here, because now you get a really good support deal with your guys while Ike just goes off alone. Whatever. There's different strategies in this game, but hopefully you found one that works. That's all I'll say. Hopefully you found that works where you can have units dealing with the left side on their own, units dealing with the right side on their own, and then Ike dealing with the center on his own. Now, here's where Tanith is such an MVP in this game. Those reinforcements are going to help you with one side. I always send them to the right side to deal with those guys and stall them out as long as possible, and I have my 2 strongest units go on the left side. That's what I usually do, and it's usually fine. I build a wall on the right side, Ike goes in the center, and it's usually fine. This is also where you want to be managing your items with Ike specifically. You want the Night Ring, so you can, heal and run, attack and run, right? You want to be repositioning as much as possible. And you also want the Laguz Guard, like, so you can be tanking the dragons in Feral without, you know, going to 10 health and relying on Ether. Although I will say, people don't, I don't know, I don't even talk about it too much, but Ike will get Ether probably every 2 fights based on probability, because he's going to have like 28, or I forget what skill he has, but high, over 25 skill, you know, so if he attacks twice each round with an enemy, he's probably going to get it every 2 fights. So you're going to be healing a lot, most likely. So you're going to be fine with Ike. But yeah, Laguz Guard, Knight's Ring, that is how you stay as safe as possible with Ike. Pure Waters as well, Elixir as well. So it's hard to tell if you should have 2 Elixirs or a Pure Water Elixir. I probably do 2 Elixirs actually in Barrier initially. So, okay. We're getting too much into strategy. That is just beginning and middle until you reach turn 9 where Ashnard comes out. Now, Ashnard, this is a whole new thing. Like it's like you're playing 2 chapters in one, because once Ashnard comes out, now you need your units that are non-Ike to sort of figure out how to deal with everything left over and deal with the reinforcements that are coming, and also get into position to support Ike, specifically Mist, Soren, whoever your healer is, and Rayson, to sort of like keep physicking and coming back. And this is where my strategy is. I have Ike do a rodeo with Ashnard and run around the entire map and use Night Ring and healing and killing the wyverns and all these different things to sort of keep Ike as safe as possible. And this is where the Asher Staff also comes into play, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of things that go on. Either way, if you do all these things right, though, everything goes smoothly. Once you get to the end of this chapter, where it's just Ike, Ashnard, and Gifka, you know, you're probably taking Gifka, it's GG. You've checkmated it, most likely, unless something really weird happens, and you run out of Physics Staff, you're fine. So, okay. I kind of just went too much on strategy there, but I think the strategy reveals how BS and difficult this map is. There's just a million reinforcements. The enemies are very tough. There's a lot you have to do. Your units probably aren't strong enough to deal with this map consistently, and it's just hell. Most Ironmans, I don't think I've seen another Ironman except, I'm not trying to be boastful, but my last Ironman, I didn't lose any units in here. I haven't seen any others where people don't lose units. Most Ironmans I've seen lose units on this map, which is reasonable. Like, it's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. I'll probably lose units on my current run if I can get here. So yeah, hardest map of the game, very difficult. And I think people talk about this finale as it's like not great or it's underwhelming. On Maniac mode, that's definitely not the case. Definitely not the case. This is a showdown. This is high anxiety, high adrenaline, a lot of actions, no turtling. You're just going. Ike feels like the protagonist. It's pretty awesome. Pretty damn awesome. So, and it takes like, I think my last time, or when I did it last time, it was like over 3 hours for one map. Yeah. So, and that was me fast forwarding. So, okay. There we are. This is the tier list. I think it's right. I'm probably not going to go through and tweak things. I'll stand by what I said. I probably should tweak things, but I'm out of my voice. I'm running out of voice. I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow. So, yeah, let me know if you agree with these picks. I'll reiterate, by the way, this is for Maniac mode specifically, and Iron Man, most likely. It doesn't have to be an Iron Man, but Iron Man's sort of playstyle. This is the tier list. If you disagree with things, let me know what you disagree with. If you agree with things, hey, tell me you agree with things. That's cool. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more sort of long-ass analysis like this, yeah, I love it, you know? It's really fun for me. I'm definitely going to do a unit analysis soon as well, where there'll be even more hot takes. There's not many hot takes here, actually, not even more, but unit analysis will definitely have some hot takes, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and see you guys later.